If only these turns could talk, what a tale they would tell. The vision, the glory, the history. Watkins Glen, two short words that say so much. This place is regarded as the soul of American road racing, and rightfully so. In 1948, the first race took place on the roads through the village, and over the next 6 decades, the world's best found a special place in their hearts for this special race. Today, it's Grand Am's turn to continue writing the endless book about this upstate New York track. Whether it be record-setting Daytona prototype teams or gutsy GT chargers, nobody wants to miss the chance for glory at the Glen. It's more than twice the distance of a regular round, so get ready to sweat, spin, and perhaps win the famed Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen. It's sports cars on speed, so gas it up.
Turn it up loud, make it go fast.
What a difference a week can make in racing. Less than 7 days ago, a 1.5 mile bull ring. This week, the wide open spaces of the wonderful Watkins Glen, and the teams are switching to endurance mode for the second longest race of the year. Welcome to round 6 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. This is the famed Sahlen's 6 Hours of the Glen. Hi folks, Lee Diffie, Calvin Fish and Dorsey Schrader with you here from the legendary Watkins Glen. Great to be back at this event, guys, for the 30th running of the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen. And Dorse, it's been quite a heavy workload. Just 5 days ago, we were in Connecticut at Lime Rock Park. How much of an impact does that have on the teams? How big a task is it?
Well, it's a big task, but the first thing was to get through Lime Rock without wrecking your car. There was no time to fix it before you got here. Everybody did a good job that way, but now you change over from that track, 1.5 miles, 7 corners, to this. 3.4 miles in length, 11 corners, but more than that, 6-hour race changes everything.
And Dorsey, it's been quite a week for all of the competitors in the paddock, but for Ganassi Racing, it's been quite a month. Remember, this is the team that was so dominant at the start of this season, winning 3 straight. Everyone asking the question, will they be beaten ever again? Well, they did get beat 3 weeks ago at VIR by Action Express in a straight-up fight. And then last week at Lime Rock, Memo Rojas made that critical error, really going for a gap that wasn't there. Now there's a little bit more heat on this team. How will they respond? Well, they're the 3-time champs. The heat is on today. Let's see how they do in this race. Weather is a factor. A lot going on. In
case you were at the beach last weekend, Memorial Day weekend, let's show you the highlights of Lime Rock Park. It has been a very busy time in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. 21-year-old Ricky Taylor for his father's team, SunTrust Racing, was on the pole, but this was a pivotal incident in the race.
Yeah, he goes to the outside of Andrew Davis. Not a move that is on at the best of times, particularly in the first 20 minutes of the race. That cost them dearly.
Talking about Memo Rojas there, this is the Spirit of Daytona team. Antonio Garcia fell foul of the heat, didn't he?
Really, really hot day, and he was succumbed by that heat, and so was Alex Gurney.
First win of the year for Ricky Taylor, Max Angelo, in a year, I should say. And in GT, Stevenson Motorsports rebounded nicely. They broke their drought as the SunTrust boys celebrate on the podium. There's the team owner, Wayne Taylor, thinking he's a rock star, celebrating with the Paul Reed Smith guitar. Well done, guys. Superb performance. Let's bring you here to Watkins Glen, and qualifying in good weather conditions, it was that man again, Ricky Taylor, who laid down the best lap time.
He wanted to go head-to-head with Scott Pruitt. He did it, and he beat him. What a pole position run for Ricky Taylor.
But there's more to this story, because his 20-year-old younger brother, Jordan Taylor, grabbed pole in the GT class. It was very, very happy times for the Taylor family. There's Dad Wayne, Mum Shelley, and the 2 boys. Brian Till, this is a remarkable story.
Indeed, it is remarkable, and that's the great thing about motorsports. Records are made and records are broken. We saw records made here this weekend. Wayne, for you, I know it's emotional to watch the boys out there in the first place. They both had wins so far this season, but you come here, each of your sons on pole, one in the Daytona prototype, one in GT. How special is that for you and Shelley?
Well, for both of us, she keeps saying, can we just freeze this moment in time and take it with us? It's been incredible. Max has done such an incredible job training Ricky and teaching him how to get the most out of the car. And same with Jordan, Max takes care of him there as well. And both teams, these guys provide the equipment for both my boys to do it, and that's their job. And you know, it's really incredible.
Incredible indeed, and a great job for the Taylor boys. They'll start from the pole today. If they could win the 6 hours here at the Glen, that much more special. Lee?
As you could hear, Wayne's a little under the weather at the moment, but seeing his boys at the front will help guide him through. Championship snapshot, just 21 points in it at the moment, Dorsey, and there was 22 at Lime Rock, so the Ganassi boys didn't lose a whole lot a week ago.
Not a lot of tightened up a point, but you know, they're on a downward spiral right now, and that's a trend-setting situation.
Let's switch gears. Let's talk GT. Grand Am's all about 2 classes and a healthy lead, but it's tightening for the Turner boys.
It really is. Look right behind them. There's a bunch of teams all there that are within 7 points, and Auckland Dalalana, not the smoothest of weekends. They're another team that needs to regroup here in the race trim.
It is timely that you talk about that, Calvin, because unfortunately, co-championship leader Paul Dalalana had a huge wreck yesterday. Look at this. And in a bizarre coincidence, it was the same driver a year ago for the same team who crashed the then Turner Motorsport M6. They didn't make the race weekend. There's a happier ending to this story. You're right on ball with Paul here. Ouch. That was a big one, Chris Neville. Tell us more about it.
Well, Will Turner's has 2 wins this year, and they're currently leading a very tight GT Points Championship. And as we saw, everything went wrong yesterday, and the team had to spend an all-nighter replacing everything but the front clip on that BMW M3. Will, what did it take for your team to get that car to the grid today, and what's the strategy going to be?
Well, you know, everybody says that they have the best team, but this just shows that we really do have the best team. It took 7 guys that work on this car all night to put it back together. But it also took guys back at Turner Motorsport in Amesbury, Massachusetts. It took those guys, 3 guys, to drive parts up. They drove through the night, got us parts here at 2:30 in the morning. Guys put it back together, and we were P4 in the first practice session. So it's a testament to the team. I got a great bunch of guys.
Sometimes the most important part about winning a championship is how you deal with adversity.
And you may have noticed there that Chris had his jacket on. You can see the windshield wipers on the Chevrolet pace car there. We've got a wet start here at Watkins Glen for a 6 hour. That's not what you really hoped for.
No, it's not, and there's some heavy rain in the area, so these conditions could get worse, not better, before the end of this race.
Quick shot of our onboards there. Cars begin to roll. We've got an interesting afternoon for you, and we're just getting going. You're watching Sports Cars on Speed. This is the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. See you in a moment. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is presented on Speed by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. Brought to you in part by Burger King, home of the Whopper, and by Subaru, with the safety of symmetrical all-wheel drive standard on all vehicles. Maybe some of that all-wheel drive might come in handy here at Watkins Glen. They're obviously archival pictures right there because it's not quite that sunny. Here we have wet, greasy conditions around this 3.5 mile track. Dorsey's going to talk us around that in just a moment, but first, let's bring you up to speed with how qualifying went down. 4th Grand Am career pole for Ricky Taylor. Antonio Garcia, who was charging down on that number 10 car a week ago at Lime Rock. The 3-time champ Scott Pruitt. We don't normally see Scott qualify, but things always get changed up a little bit here at the 6 hour, and that point is proven with the next car, the 99 of Alex Gurney, and Brian Frizzell, who's been driving very well this year. He gets in the top 5. In GT, yes, you know the brotherly story, and the same as his big brother, it's also Jordan Taylor's 4th Grand Am career pole position, ahead of the most recent race winner, Robin Liddell. Ollie Gavin there, the GM-powered cars are looking good, and Wayne Nonamaker, the best of the Mazda brigade, ahead of the Rolex 24 winner, Sylvain Tremblay. He's won that event a couple of times. Sil and his team will be looking. All right, time for the Burger King track map. Go, Dors.
Running a long course here at Watkins Glen, 3.4 miles, 11 corners. A lot of elevation change as you climb the hill through the S's on the back straight, the inner loop. Then it's downhill through turn 5, 6 to the toe of the boot. Back uphill, headed toward turn 11. One of the corners that's caught a lot of people out in the past, and it did in practice. Watch here. Ryan Eversley in the TRG 67 Porsche with a simple spin so far, but as he tries to get that car righted, several cars make it through all right. Somewhat of a blind corner, and possibly this car, the Brumos Porsche, obstructed the vision. Colin Brown T-bones that car. The 2 is out of the race, cannot be fixed. 67 will race today.
Not a very happy story for that number 2 car. Happier times at Mike Shank Racing as we see the Subaru starting grid roll through at the top of your screen. You talk about momentum in this sport, and Brian Till, that's what MSR has got right now.
That's exactly right, Lee. You know, they've got momentum in 2011, but it was just a year ago at this racetrack, one of the darkest days for Mike Shank Racing as Michael Valiente had an engine failure out on track. The car caught fire, and the closest fire station was at pit end. Michael brought the car around, but the entire car engulfed in flames, and that was a big, big setback for Michael Shank Racing. But Mike Shank, a year ago, it seems like a long time ago for you guys, you rebounded, you had a podium the very next race. As you come here to Watkins Glen, though, you watch the 60 team all year long. They've gotten better and better and better. What do you attribute that to? The hard work of the team or the guys behind the wheel?
I mean, both. I mean, we're having a breakout performance for John Pugh the last couple races. I'm just super proud of where he's at. That guy works harder than I do at this racing stuff. Just looking back at the tape on the 6 car last year, that was a really, really tough time for me and my wife and the team for the next week or so. Got to Mid-Ohio, did really well. This year, things are looking up for us. Now, it's raining today, but as far as the dry stuff goes, our car is really tough. So we'll see what ends up happening, but I'm pleased with the progress so far.
Car and the team really coming along since the problems here last year. Second last time out at Lime Rock Park. Lee.
Third car in line is the 3-time champion, Scott Pruitt. And unusual times here, boys, for these guys. And I say unusual because it has been, instead of back-to-back wins, it's been back-to-back losses. You have to look to mid-2009 was the beginning of a bad run for that team. They're not used to losing 2 races in a row.
No, as I said in the open, it's really how will they rebound. They've got a lot of experience on that pit box. They've got Scott Pruitt starting this race in these tricky conditions, but this is where it all started to go wrong from VIR. They had a fast car, but look at this. Memo Rojas, a big off there, big damage to the race car. That was in qualifying. What it did, it allowed them to start a little bit behind the 8 ball, and great execution by the Action Express team. Then just 1 week ago, Memo Rojas, look for this, going to the left of Andrew Davis. That's no man's land there, gets it all wrong. More damage to the front of that race car.
So the team, we know how strong they are, the championship winning caliber of the team. They need to going to arrest this situation and keep things nice and clean. We steer your attention to the race analysis for this 6-hour event, Dorse.
2 classes competing, Daytona Prototype and GT. There's got to be a minimum of 2 drivers per car or more. Each driver must complete 30 minutes to get any kind of points in this race, and every car must stop within the first 45 minutes. Race length, key here, 6-hour endurance, second longest of the year.
You mentioned the key. How about the Continental Tire keys to the race? Cal, there was a change in caution procedure coming into this 2011 season. How important is that to getting your lap back here at the Glen?
Well, it's big in these longer races. We saw at Daytona, basically you get a reset opportunity every time there's a caution. If you stay out, you basically get a wave by. You can then pit on that same lap, get a lap back. You can do multiple laps, as we saw in the 24-hour race. Then pit window in the dry. Will it be determined by fuel or tires? But obviously the big one right now is this weather, and we're going to see any dry action here this afternoon.
Onboards for you, and the Telmex BMW Riley for Chip Ganassi Racing will have an onboard. So too will the Dempsey Racing Mazda, and Charles Espinlau is starting this 3-driver rotation. Another Mazda, and its co-champion, the defending champion, Emil Asintato, on board the 69 Speed Source machine, and the 94 for Turner Motorsport, that is Paul Dalla Lana, co-GT points leader. Really special times whenever we come to Watkins Glen, because we see this young man here, 11-year-old Nolan Crowley. He sits in the stands with his dad, and he has the full array of flags. He flags for the entire race. Grand Am and Joe Sahlen of Sahlen's fame has recognized this young man's accomplishments, and they have asked him to be the official starter for this year's Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen, and Tawny Miller doesn't need to tell him what to do. This kid is fantastic. Roger Penske, Tim Cindric acknowledged him, and look at the style of this young man as we are racing in 2011 at the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen. Be careful, boys.
Same row as we saw at Lime Rock Park. Ricky Taylor and the 90 car on the front row. Good, clean start. Everyone nicely spaced out. They don't want any aggravation through this first couple of corners.
It's a long day. It's a special day. It's a long race. Just take your time.
No cars have been on the track in the rain except for that pace lap, so what oil that's coming out of the track is right on top right now.
Ricky Taylor was sensational in the opening lap at VIR in similar conditions. He said the place I want to be is out front, where he doesn't get the spray from the cars in front. He's got that clear sailing right now.
Dorsey, you have to prepare for anything and everything in racing, as you and Cal and the boys well know. Do you know what happened to this lead team at VIR? They didn't have a fogging effect. They didn't have mud on the windshield. water got in behind the tear-offs and gave the illusion of fogging and hampered their visibility. You've just got to be ready for anything.
Look at this gurney. He's trying the wet line. Talk about that, Dorsey.
The wet line is outside of the normal racing line. The normal racing line is always polished because the cars constantly run there. When you get to the outside of the racetrack, or what we call the wet line, there's grip there because of the clag that David Hobbs talks about gives you grip. Here comes Pruitt to the outside of that corner.
And
Pruitt there, and Garcia starting to put the heat on Ricky Taylor a little bit out front.
Brian Frizzell is well placed. David Donahue taking a look at him, and again, Gurney goes the high line. Look at this, Antonio Garcia for the lead of the race. The Spirit of Daytona Coyote, impatient and wants to get to the front.
Now watch when they turn into these corners because there's sealer. Right here, you see this concrete patch. It's very slippery. If you can avoid it, like you see Antonio running around the outside of it, you get better grip.
These drivers are really going to start to feel out this racetrack. We've really had no wet running here this week, so they've got to go from experience. But I think in these first couple of laps, they'll be trying a multitude of lines. What are you hearing down there, Chris?
Well, Calvin, when you talk about experience, that's exactly what Spirit of Daytona learned at VIR just a couple weeks ago. That was the first time that the team had that Coyote chassis out in the wet, and they learned a ton about it. The main thing they learned, they had a lot of leaks, water coming into the cockpit, so that hampered the visibility of their drivers, and they also had problems with their windshield wipers. Right now, it doesn't look like Antonio Garcia has the wipers going, but that weekend they only had one wiper. This weekend they have two wipers. Now, they learned at Lime Rock that they still had some leaks when they went out in the morning practice. They're hopefully got those taken care of because you don't want leaks. If you have leaks, you're going to get fog in the car.
And now those conditions are more difficult for Ricky Taylor, for Alex Gurney, for Scott Pruitt. You don't want to be mired in the pack, so it's going Garcia's way just nicely. But Ricky is now growing impatient. He wants to get back the lead and get some clearer visibility.
Probably had a better run up
There's
through
a problem.
the
Is
S's.
Garcia slow? He looked really slow accelerating up through
And
the
you're
S's
right,
there. He's
yeah.
going backwards.
Wipers aren't on, and it's a visibility problem. I guarantee it is.
Have those dual wipers failed? No,
there
now they
go.
come on.
They're on. He shouldn't really need the wipers. Essentially, you know, the air coming over that windshield, unless you're in spray, should clear itself. But something's amiss with Garcia. Could it be visibility or some kind of other issue? This is a team that's been knocking on the door so close to that first victory. Started from the front row, 4 races in a row, including 2 poles.
In GT, it's 3 Camaros, but it's not the pole-setting Camaro up front. It's the 57 Robin Liddell looking for back-to-back victories. Doesn't have his regular co-driver Jan Magnussen with him this weekend. It's another Danish driver, Ronnie Bremer, has returned to the series for the first time since the Rolex 24 at Daytona earlier this year.
This rain causes so many different problems. Visibility is probably the #1 problem. But the other things you got to worry about are the electrics in the car, keeping them dry, making sure that the ECU doesn't get underwater on the floorboard. If it's there, moving it somewhere, or containing it so it cannot get wet.
Well, from 1st to 8th, the 90 has dropped. He gets overtaken by the lead GT car. Brian, tell us more about the Stevenson machine.
Lee, I stopped in and talked to the Stevenson team just before the race. Mike Johnson said they've worked on trying to make sure that car does not fog. And I also spoke with Robin Liddell. He said, look, I don't like racing in the rain, but I've done plenty of it. And if that's what it comes to, we're going to be good. And they are, Chris.
Well, Brian, we saw the 90 car going backwards as it was going through the S's, and it sounds like Antonio Garcia is having a difficult time seeing out the windshield of that car. He was talking to his crew chief, Troy Fliss, and Troy was telling him, hey, see if you can redirect some of the air up onto the windshield. Try and get rid of that fog. But this team trying to do the best they can to get that car sealed up. Still looks like they've got some issues in wet weather.
Not happy times because this weather is predicted to stick around for several hours this afternoon. Wayne Taylor anxiously watching his eldest son lead this race, but Ricky's got a comfortable lead, that's for sure. And there's Troy Fliss. He'll be looking for Garcia, communicating to his driver and finding out exactly what's going on. Do you remember the show's Dave Despain on assignment? Well, they are back, and Thursday you can join Dave to explore the legacy of one of the automotive world's most influential men. Who is it? Carroll Shelby. Dave Despain on assignment Thursday at 8 p.m. Eastern right here on Speed. I know some of the production staff that worked on that show, and they said it is absolutely fascinating. Dramas here at Spirit of Daytona. They're trying to rectify the situation, Chris.
Yeah, once again, a visibility issue for Antonio Garcia. And what the issue is the team is using an adhesive laminate on the inside of the windshield, which is what he's calling a fog strip. But if moisture gets between that fog strip and the windshield, essentially the windshield turns opaque. So that is where Antonio Garcia said he could not see, so he brought the car in. Troy Fliss in there right now trying to pull that laminate off to get Antonio back out on the racetrack. But this team has had so much speed this year, but they just can't get the result, guys. Talked to a couple of the crew members right before the race. They said they performed an exorcism on this car, and they were hoping that that was going to do the trick. Obviously, it hasn't.
They put a fog strip on the inside, or a tear-off, if you will, in case it fogged, and it caused it to fog. In the meantime, we saw this car, and there's been a driver change. Paul Dallalana out.
Yeah, obviously very tricky conditions at the beginning of the race, and we question whether they could maybe have pulled Paul Dallalana, but the rules do not allow you to do that. Once you've nominated your qualifying driver, if you then change that rotation, that qualifying driver does not get points. Of course, Paul has gone for the championship. Billy Oberlin will have to skip some events this year. They currently hold that championship lead.
Race leading car is the number 10 SunTrust Zalara, powered by Chevrolet this year. And Ricky Taylor has a 2-second lead over Bob Stalling, Gainsco driver Alex Gurney. There is the 90 coming back out, trying to make up for lost ground. These guys have had so much speed. We've spoken about that. They've had their endless, what seems to be endless bad luck. It will come. It will turn for them eventually.
It will, because they've got so much speed. The car has really been developed over the last 12 months. It is now a front runner every racetrack we go to. They've got two stunning drivers, and the team is really doing a great job as well. They need a little bit of racing luck. They also just need to execute a little bit better, Dorsey.
As the three cars come down the hill, now he'll try to get that lap back if he can, but that visibility problem he had was caused by that inner tear-off. So what they trouble here, two of the good cars.
That's the leader in our GT race, or was at the time. You see the 8 car involved as well. Not a smooth weekend for the Starworks team. Already lost a 2 car in that practice incident.
Mike Forrest, who is feeling absolutely terrible at the moment with a stomach bug, will be feeling even worse right now. What has gone on between the 8 and the 57?
Big damage on the right front. It looks like it probably happened up there in the exit of the inner loop. We have a full course caution as a result.
The DP looped it coming out the front bus stop, and I just couldn't decide which way to go. I tried to go right, and he spun back to the right. Oil pressure is lost. Oil pressure.
That's Robin Liddell giving us the onboard commentary, telling us exactly what happened. Mike Forrest spun, and Robin had difficulty choosing which way to go. What a weekend for Peter Barron's Starworks team. First of all, the number 2, now the number 8, great Grout Shield Ford Riley.
Take your time coming back, Mike, and take your time in the paddock. No rush in the paddock.
Look at that
A lot
right
of people
front.
walking around in the paddock, okay?
That's the voice of Bill Riley.
For the Stevenson Motorsport team as well. I mean, they've had a disastrous season by their standards. Finally got their first win last week at Lime Rock Park. They're way down to 19 points, but only 26 points out of the championship lead. So they could certainly have gained some momentum in this championship, but this is going to hurt them dearly.
Yeah, we got to look at this. Look at the back of the frame up on top. There's the spin. It is coming out of the inner loop. Now watch Robin. Commits to the inside and doesn't know where to go.
Looked to the left and thought, okay, he's going to go that direction. Then he changed his mind just as Mike was rolling back down the hill.
And you only get one move, Calvin, in wet like that. You got one decision to make, and he made the one that looked right. Unfortunately, the Camaro came straight across.
Let's go to Stevenson. Chris is there.
Well, Mike Johnson just had a chance to see that replay. Robin is typically so good in the wet. Is he having visibility issues, or is that just a tough place to be?
No, there was no issue whatsoever. I mean, we were just sticking to our strategy. Take it easy for 6 hours. You know, you could see it on the replay. He spun. It looked like he was going outside, and then all of a sudden he turned in. He kind of came back across, and Robin had already decided to go inside, and too late. So
I heard you tell Robin to have the wrecker take him back to the garage. Are you going to be able to get it fixed and get him back on the track?
Well, our biggest concern right now is with the radiator gone, did we lose a lot of water? Did we overheat the engine? Did we crack the block? There's a lot of things there. So we're obviously going to try to fix it. It's still a long race and a lot can happen, but you know, we got to take a look at the engine and see what's going on in there first.
Best of luck, Mike. Brian?
Well, down at Starworks, Peter Barron was watching that replay as well, and this has not been a good weekend for you guys. Can you ascertain what kind of damage you have, or be able to fix the 8 and get it back out?
It looked like, unfortunately, Robin got into him pretty hard there on the spin, and based on our experience for him earlier this weekend, I'd say it's probably pretty damaged for right now. I wouldn't put heavy odds on us getting back out right now.
Unfortunate. It looks like there's a little bit of snake bit here over the last couple of rounds, but Peter Barron and the boys, they'll be back, Lee.
Well, they were on the podium at VIR. They were looking to do more good things. I take that back. Podium at Lime Rock Park. after adversity at VIR. And Peter Barron's face tells the story. Here's the replay, Dorse.
Pretty simple spin so far. You see the car going outside. Robin did the only thing he can do. He read it, he went to the inside, but the car hooked and got right in front of him. You get one move, Calvin, like I said before.
Yeah, I think it basically took the camber of the racetrack and rolled to the right, unfortunately for Robin Liddell.
So our first caution of the afternoon. Is this going to be a theme in these wet and tricky conditions? We'll find out. See you in a moment. And this giveaway, this is the important part. It supports Camp Boggy Creek, which is the official charity of Grand Am Road Racing. The key word, the code word this week is Porsche. And the first 2,000 Grand Am fans to use this code will receive one free entry. For official rules and to enter, you've got to go to wintheporsches.com/free ticket. We like to keep you in the loop and keep you up to date and up to speed. So while we're away, this is what went down amongst some pretty ugly weather. We're right on board with Billy Auberlen. Guess what? On a restart,
he initiated a pass before the stripe, and that is not allowed. Billy got on the radio, said, I couldn't see anything well. Mark Raffo would have said, you could have slowed down, Billy. He had to make a trip to pit lane.
He wasn't the only one. The 40 Dempsey Racing Mazda of Charles Espinal did the same up front. Scott Pruitt proved that he's just as good in the wet as the dry and took the lead of the race from Ricky Taylor.
The conditions are really bad, and now we're back to live action. You can see the rain has diminished somewhat. There's still a lot of water out there, Dorsey, and we understand there's about 10 more minutes of intermittent rain, then it should start to dry out, and then they'll just be looking at the lap times and seeing when it gets to that critical point. But I think we're probably at least 20, 30 minutes away from that point in the action.
And Watkins Glen, like all tracks with a lot of elevation change, has this puddling at the bottom of these steep hills, one of which you're looking at right now as you turn down to the left here. That river of water will be there for quite a while, even though the rain will stop, as you said, Calvin, in the next 11 minutes.
So here's the running order. There's Pruitt at the bottom of your screen. Ricky Taylor is second. Alex Gurney in the 99 Gainsco machine is third. Brian Frizzell for Doran in the Office Depot. Delara is fourth. John Pugh for Mike Shank Racing is fifth. And then David Donahue is about a minute and 18 back from the race lead in sixth position. Best GT car is Ollie Gavin, and he's in the top 10. He's seventh place at the moment. And Antonio Garcia making up for lost ground. You saw the hiccups and hurdles for that team a little earlier in this race, but Garcia is going strong now, heading back in the right direction.
Well, Gurney had really sliced into the lead of both Ricky Taylor and Scott Pruitt, and then on that last lap, Dorsey, he did a 2:21. His fastest lap at that point had been a 2:10, so I'm not sure if he had a quick spin somewhere. I don't think traffic would have contributed to that big a lap difference.
We had been watching. He was pushing hard to get up to Ricky Taylor. Actually, he was right behind Ricky Taylor, so I think you're right. He had some sort of a moment out there, either a spin or just a slide wide or whatever, but he's lost a lot of time as a result.
And the key in these conditions, you've just got to be so smooth with the throttle application. That's one thing that with various engine manufacturers work very hard in terms of that drivability, Dorsey, and that makes a massive difference in these atrocious conditions.
Yeah, these race engines tend to get to a certain RPM range and then get real happy. And as you're just like blending on a little throttle, all of a sudden you get 50, 60 horsepower with that RPM, and it's not what you want in the rain for sure.
Top 15 cars are on the lead lap here at Watkins Glen. Here's Brian Frizzell going with a 3-driver lineup. His Mesco building the future Rookie of the Year standings leader Henri Richard, regular co-driver, is here again. And they also have Matt Bell in the car, who debuted for Doran Racing at New Jersey Motorsports Park last year, much to the delight of team principal Kevin Doran, who said Matt did a terrific job. He's welcome back to the team anytime, and he is back here. Let's get an update with Brian Till.
You guys just checked in down with the Gainsco team, spoke with John Fogarty, and Alex Gurney working his way through GT traffic. Had to leave that wet line that you guys had talked about earlier, get down on the normal dry line, spun, didn't hit anything, back underway, but kind of halted his progress that he had moving forward up until that point in time. He had the second fastest race lap, so the 99 working well right now. He's just going to work his way through traffic in the rain.
You called that one right, Calvin. I mean, we saw there was a time loss for some reason, and this racetrack will now start to dry on the line as we see David Donahue bring the number 5 in for service.
This is for the third time.
He was only in about 10 minutes ago, so I'm not quite sure what's going on. They're going to the cockpit, so you'd have to assume, Dorsey, that fog. And there we see him, the mechanics working on it.
We're going to put the duct on the helmet blower.
that's exactly the problem. David Donahue on the radio saying, guys, I cannot see anything. At one point in time, he said, I apologize, but I'm so frustrated. I can't tell whether it's a GT car or a Daytona prototype in front of me. I can see nothing. So right now that team's struggling, not with the car on the racetrack. It feels pretty good. It's just that David Donahue can't see.
Well, and that is the most frustrating. Frustrating is not even the right word. It is when you can't see. It's just so bad. The 43 recovering from a spin that he just had in the
Joe
rain.
Nonamaker there. Looks like it's up in the loop area possibly. That's where Paul Dallalana had his crash.
Exit of the loop there, and that catches a lot of people off. A lot of that due to that curb we've been watching before, that you get on these curbs and it's wet like this and the car takes off on you.
Well, typically when you go through there, you can eat up some of those curves, but there's so much cornering load, it almost lightens the inside tires. And when you go over at a slower speed, it then really is very abrupt on the suspension and can turn you around.
And of course, the paint being slippery adds to the problem.
Huge weekend for Sahlen's boys. We can't help but give them enough praise and say thanks, because to Joe Nonamaker, Joe Sahlen, I should say, the man behind the name and the business, it's their 10th year of sponsoring this event. Joe's daughter is part of the women's professional soccer team, the Western New York Flash, who are not only one of the best professional women's soccer teams in North America, but in the world, and they were the official Grand Marshals. All the girls were here today. They're the official Grand Marshals of the event, so we thank them for coming along. This is the home event. Sahlen's have got so many supporters here, so we wish them a good day.
Yeah, and they're unbeaten again this year, and we're seeing Garcia now. Looks like his visibility issues have been sorted out when they tore off those inside the windshield tear-offs, and he managed to get his lap back when we went to caution. We talked about that earlier in the event. You stay out there, you should get the wave by, and that's what he did to good effect. And this 90 car is now back on the lead lap once the timing and scoring cycles.
Leader in GT, that car, the 07 Camaro. Ollie Gavin, no stranger to the rain, coming from England. He's used to definitely motoring around in the wet.
And it's not only about all outright speed, because all you got to do is just keep it in the right direction and be consistent. Ollie Gavin is not only the lead GT car, he's 6th overall in the race. So he is doing very well. Next best car is Craig Stanton. Next best is Billy Aublin. You've just seen those positions switch. So the BMW is up to 2nd and on a charge. More on GT and TRG. Here's Chris Neville.
Well, Lee, usually if you want to make a safe bet in GT and the endurance events, you're going to put your money on TRG. They won the Rolex 24 this year. They won this event last year. However, the 67 car right now back in the garage. We saw they had that bad accident in practice yesterday. Ryan Eversley getting hit in the rear by the 2-car, Colin Brown behind the wheel. And it seems that some debris from that accident made its way into the throttle body. So early in this race, that throttle body was sticking. And while they were trying to deal with that situation, the clutch also seized up. So that car back in the garage, the team doing the best they can to get it back into the fight. But right now, TRG not on the racetrack.
It's not surprising they had this gearbox issue, because as you were telling me, Calvin, that hit was so vicious that a part of the suspension actually went through the engine block, destroying the engine on that Porsche.
It was a big shunt, and a lot of people are pretty concerned about that incident, felt that maybe the flags went out quite in the nick of time, but one of those racing deals, but a lot of damage to 2 race cars, and both team owners pretty frustrated.
There was one championship leader passing another championship leader, both powered by BMW. Scott Pruitt getting by Bill Aublin, our Daytona prototype and GT championship leaders at the moment. So the overall running order is Pruitt on screen. Ricky Taylor is 7 seconds in arrears. Gurney Frizzell, John Pugh, then Antonio Garcia is up to 6th. Ollie Gavin and Bill Aublin, we're talking overall here. And then Joao Barbosa is 9th, Craig Stanton in 10th. So 3 GT cars already into the top 10. Let's talk more GT, and let's go to Leighton Reese's Banner Racing team.
Well, right now it's Ollie Gavin out in front, sharing that car with Gunter Schuldach all year long. And Gunter, you and I were talking earlier about this entire Camaro program throughout 2011. It really seems to help Banner Racing, and you guys come to life this year.
Yeah, it's been great. Leighton Reese is awesome. The team is awesome. It's a whole different deal than last year. You know, it's one car, single focus. It changes things. It changes things big time.
And you guys, 4 top 10s, including 2 podiums at Barber and VIR right now. We got the Rainmeister and Ollie Gavin out there. Has he said much on the radio that's helped you with what you're going to be facing when you get in?
No, he's pretty happy out there. He's pretty happy out there. He keeps checking to see where he is on the track and who's behind him. but he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, indeed he is doing pretty well. And guys, this Camaro team right now, Jim Lutt's telling me that all the Camaros really working together this year, sharing data, and that has helped the entire Chevy performance in the GT category. That's exactly what we're seeing here at Watkins Glen.
Yeah, and Ollie Gavin, Brian, is one of those drivers who has other sports car racing duties this summer, so he'll be missing for a few races. The guy who's going to be filling in is a guy called Mike Skeen. He's here this weekend and should participate in the race today. He's a standout in World Challenge, won a couple of races recently at Mosport, sits third in that championship, and someone that Leighton Reese has kept his eye on for a long, long time. Did a really nice job here this weekend in practice.
Not only has Ollie got sports car commitments throughout the summer, next weekend he's going back to see if he can win another 24 hours of Le Mans. So too is Antonio Garcia and many other Grand Am drivers. Been plenty of action here at the Glen already, so much more to come. A reminder about a very special occasion and show on Tuesday, June 14. That's Tuesday week at 8 p.m. Eastern here on Speed. You can see the seat swap. It's a Mobil 1 promotion where Tony Stewart of NASCAR fame and 2008 F1 World Champion Lewis Hamilton will swap seats here at Watkins Glen. What does everyone think? Let's start with former F1 driver Juan Pablo Montoya.
I actually did talk to him in Phoenix when I found out about it, and I told him, look, whatever you need, you know, the cars are actually pretty simple to drive. You know, I haven't been in one of them for a while, but, you know, car's a car. I think he'd be okay, you know what I mean? I think he's got the more exercise he does for his neck, the more fun he's going to have, because, you know, when Jeff drove it in Indy, the corners are really slow, and the neck, you don't need the neck so much. And a place, I think, like Watkins, whew, he's going to rip his head off.
Well, after listening to Juan said my neck's going to be falling out with the thing after 3 laps anyway, so it's probably in my best interest that they're limiting the amount of laps we can run.
Just it's huge in America, so just to feel exactly what they're like, and I don't know if I think we're going out in Watkins Glen, so it'll be interesting to see how much different it is handling, but they sound amazing, and I'm sure they're quite a heavy beast, but.
Lewis is such a student of the sport. He'll really love being here at the Glen and appreciating the rich F1 history at Watkins Glen. So Tony gets to experience the McLaren Mercedes Lewis, the Stewart-Haas Chevrolet. It's going to be great, boys.
You see the tail of the tape, 2 remarkable drivers, and their win ratio is exactly the same. They always win at least, well, they win 3 races per season, so that's quite a remarkable stat to look at. It'll be a lot of fun that day for the spectators as well.
And as you can see, much happier pictures on screen. The weather has moved on, thankfully. We are just over an hour and 20 into this 6-hour event. It's round 6 of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series for 2011. And lights are out on the pace car. The caution was for one of 3 Sahlen's Mazdas that spun coming out of the boot, was facing the oncoming traffic, had some kind of gear issue and could not engage neutral, couldn't roll off the track, just was immobilized and it needed rescuing. So it's been quite a lengthy caution. That has enabled us to have a nice, clear, clean track. And let's hope we don't see any more bad weather for the remaining hours of this race. Max Angelelli has taken over the wall. Oh, the 90 pulls out of line. Antonio Garcia, you are not allowed to do that on a restart.
Well, I think the key is maybe Mark Raffoff can look at that, the chief steward, and determine did he really gain an advantage. If he was going to run into the back of someone, they'd probably let him go. But it's now Max Angelelli taking over the driving chores with the 10 car. Remember, he hasn't seen action today, so he's got to feel out this racetrack, Dorsey.
No penalty on the restart is what we're hearing. That's the good news. It's hard to see around those courts. Remember, the visibility not great because of the rain that we've had, even though it's drying up now.
So Pruitt right behind him. He'll have a feel for this racetrack. He'll know where the grip is. He looks to the inside of Max, but that Dallara has good straight line speed. But Pruitt late on the brakes, not enough. Max Angelelli closes the door. Give him a lap or 2. He'll be in a rhythm here, and you can see the racetrack is really starting to dry out. I would say another 15-20 minutes here, and we'll probably be looking for a change to slicks.
Gurney has stepped from the 99. John Fogarty is driving that car. John Pugh has moved out of the 60. Oz Negri is there. Brian Frizzell out of the 77. Matt Bell is driving that car. Garcia, no driver change as yet. Brian.
You talk about the 01 and the 10 doing battle out there, and Calvin, you're exactly right. Scott Pruitt, very familiar with track conditions right now. They elected to leave on the taller rear gurney. It's going to add a little more downforce, a little more grip to the back end of that 01 machine. So right now, Pruitt with the advantage on the racetrack as far as knowledge goes. He's got a good car underneath him as well.
Pruitt tried to dry line down there to the toe of the boot, didn't get the traction he needed. 10 went to the outside, got a better hookup, and you see now it has not changed. Max Angeloli still leading Scott, but Scott wants by.
And even in the break zone there, you saw Max move to the middle of the road. It's not a defensive move. Oh, problems for the 9 car. They're really up in the championship chase. This is a disaster for them.
They came in for their pit stop and couldn't get the car to refire. They tried pushing down the pit lane. It would not fire.
Tell us more, Brian.
Well, the engine in the 9 running fine. The problem, a clutch. Barbosa came in and they wanted to take advantage of that yellow to refuel that car, put some new rain tires on it, Continental rain tires, and when he went to take off, the car engaged the gear and leapt from the box, but at that point in time, a clutch issue, and they've now taken the car back to the garage area. So they'd come in for that stop, taking on the Sunoco fuel. Right now, a clutch issue on the 9.
Sometimes in these conditions, Dory, with the water and stuff, that throwout bearing can be a problem. That can seize up or something. But you saw Pruitt there get up on that curb and really got lively there coming out in the front straightaway.
Yeah, those curves in the wet are going to really upset the car's handling. And right now is the trickiest part of driving, because some of this racetrack is offering up more grip, and you start to get your confidence level up, and then you'll find one of those slippery areas and be caught off.
In GT, Charles Espenlaub for Dempsey Racing takes the lead of that class. We ride with Charles right now. He's coming up on the 11 of Tom Nastasi, which is a lapped car. Good to see Tom back in the Black Forest Mustang, he and Ian James. Not sure how many events they'll do. It's definitely a limited program in 2011.
Yeah, said they'll definitely look at doing Montreal as one of Tom's favorite racetracks, but the top 3 in GT didn't take the opportunity to pit under that last caution. So they don't have as much fuel on board, probably factoring in that maybe these wet tires won't need to be on there that much longer and making the switch to slicks. For the leader, which was Ollie Gavin at the time, they took that first opportunity to pit under the GT open lap rule. Several others didn't, got a wave by and got a bit of an advantage, including Bill Orbelin's team.
You can see from the onboard that there's a dry line starting to show up. Problem is that you're going to have to go outside that dry line to attempt to make a pass, as you see right now, having had done inside.
4 different cars in the top 4 positions in GT. It's a Mazda, a Porsche, a Camaro, and a BMW as they all crest the hill. Here comes Craig Stanton, the first, the Porsche you can see there ahead of Jordan Taylor. Bill Orberlin a little further back. Wayne Nonamaker, the best of the Sahlen's cars, is 5th in class. That's a nice run early on in this one. Chris?
Well, Lee, as you said, you've got the 40, the 44, and the 88 running the top 3 in GT right now, and they did not come in during that caution to fuel up, mainly because they think the track is going to dry out and they're going to have to go to slicks. But Turner decided to come in. They said, let's put fuel in the car, stay on the wet weather tires, so when they have to come in, probably at the same time those other teams will, they're just going to do tires and not have to do as much fuel, so they will have a much quicker pit stop than the rest of those 3 teams and probably leapfrog them at that point in time. Brian?
Well, Chris, you know it takes speed, but it also takes strategy to win here at the 6 hour. Patrick Dempsey, your team took a victory at Watkins Glen last year, the first for the team, and you guys used good strategy at the Rolex 24 to get that podium finish. Looks like the same thing you guys are working on right now, strategy to get the 40 to the front.
Yeah, we just need to get some track position. We jumped the start, and that cost us a little bit, so we'll see what the weather's going to bring. Hopefully get a little bit more rain, and then we can come in and, you know, maybe top off a little bit, but we'll see. We're rolling dice. It's really early yet. We'll see what happens, but we needed the track position. That gives us a little time to play it out.
And for you, to get to a racetrack where you've run before, the last couple of racetracks we've been to, it's been difficult for you. You don't have a lot of track time. Good to come back to Watkins Glen where you've got some experience.
Oh yeah, this is such a great track. It's so much fun. It's really fast, and certainly in these conditions, it's really tricky. Charles is doing a great job as always. But yeah, it's nice. It makes you feel a lot more relaxed in the car, and I think that just helps on a long run, certainly.
Hey, Brian.
You talk about relaxing. Calvin wants to ask a question. Go ahead, Calvin.
Yeah, Brian, Patrick got it all wrong on the fuel strategy yesterday. Is he any better with this tire strategy today?
Well, Calvin's saying you got it all wrong on the fuel strategy yesterday. We were talking in the Continental race, and he wants to take this opportunity to kind of rub some salt into the wounds. So he wants to find out if you're calling tire strategy today and if the rest of the team's worried about that.
I'm not calling the strategy on the tires today. I learned my lesson yesterday. If he has any advice, let us know throughout the race.
Oh, he'll definitely let you know, bud.
Ongoing feud here?
Yeah, we had a pretty wild Continental Tire Sports Car Challenge Series race here yesterday. Thoroughly enjoyable, and you can see that here on Speed Sunday, June 12 at 5 p.m. Eastern. You don't want to miss it because it's why we love the Continental Series so much. Just amazing racing. So tight. Those boys have been getting pretty aggro lately as well. We need to leave the Glen momentarily, but so much more to come. You're watching Sports Cars Grand Am on Speed. Fast approaching the 2-hour mark in the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen after Nolan Crowley waved the green. In very wet conditions, the guys had their hands full. Very challenging conditions, and Mike Forrest spun the number 8 Starworks car right into the path of GT leader Robin Liddell. Nowhere to go. Both cars have been knocked out of this race. Visibility problems for the Spirit of Daytona 90 and Antonio Garcia. Troy Fliss and his guys did the best they could to clear things up.
Yeah, and this is just a drama for the drivers in these type of conditions. Then on a restart, Billy Aublin initiated a pass before the stripe. He was called foul on that one, had to make a visit to pit lane to serve that penalty, but he has been very fast all day. Joey Hand now behind the wheel of this 94 Turner machine.
Continental Tire race summary as we come back to much clearer, drier, more pleasant conditions. Look at that, 8 lead changes, Dorse. The boys have been going at it.
Yeah, they have indeed. And now that the track is dry, a lot of people been in. They're back on slicks. The lap times are falling. We'll see.
Race leader is Max Angelelli for the SunTrust Dallara, the Wayne Taylor Racing team. Almost 20 seconds out in front. This is reminiscent of a week ago at Lime Rock Park when Ricky Taylor pulled out a 22-second lead early on in the race. Bert Frizzell is doing a terrific job for Action Express Racing. And guess who he's holding off? The 3-time champion, Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, and that's the fastest car on the racetrack right now. Scott just set the fastest lap. He is right now trying to not hold off, he's trying to get around, I should say, Bert Frizzell. And he's got company from behind. These guys were separated a few laps back, now nose to tail.
The number 9 Action Express car is not on the lead lap. However, the next car in line is the 99 of John Fogarty. That will be for position as we ride with Pruitt.
Well, what we've been seeing here is that Bert Frizzell has been doing a tremendous job. He's had to be a little bit defensive in some of the brake zones when he's around other GT traffic. But here we come up on this back stretch. We're looking at that Porsche V8 Power versus the Dynam BMW here. Equalizes Ron this straightaway, Dorsey. Pruitt's picking up a pretty big draft there, and he really can't make any inroads into Bert Frizzell. But a lot of pressure on Bert Frizzell coming in here, helping out David Donahue and Darren Law in their championship charge. Obviously, he's a regular with AIM Autosport, who will be returning for 3 more races this year with Gamma 88 sponsorship starting at Road America alongside Mark Wilkins. But he drove for this team at the Daytona Rolex 24-hour race, did a great job, was invited back for this 6-hour endurance.
Looks like Bert Frizzell's car gets off the corners a little bit better. Scott gets in real good. That could be also, because of entry speed versus exit speed, but definitely Bert Frizzell really comes hard coming off the corners and open up just enough gap. Pruitt has to take it back at the end of the straightaway.
You can see the 99 of John Fogarty has got by Joao Barbosa, so he maintains his position in 4th, but trying to bridge the gap to Pruitt. In 5th place is the Spirit of Daytona number 90 machine with Paul Edwards, the Chevrolet-powered Coyote. Then Oz Negri and Matt Bell, who's been doing a very nice job in the 77 Office Depot Dallara for Kevin Doran's team. And he just pitted some 7 laps ago after enjoying some time out in front.
That leader's last lap, 1:43.996, is the fastest lap of the race. Talking about Maxiax Angelelli, who just did set that fastest lap.
There was a special piece of history created here yesterday in qualifying. For the first time in Grand Am history, 2 brothers own the 2 more positions in Daytona Prototype and GT. Let's start with the older brother. Here's Ricky Taylor.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to think of Ricky Taylor as being old, but Lee, I guess you're right, he is the older brother. Ricky, for you, let's first talk about qualifying. You and Jordan on the pole. We already talked to your dad about how special that was. How special was it for you to share that day with your brother?
That was so special to be on pole with my brother. Last year, I had 2 poles, he had 3 poles, but we could never do it on the same weekend, and to do it here at the Sahlen 6 hours is pretty special.
Yeah, and you both have a win on the season, but let's just talk about the conditions here at Watkins Glen right now. Full rain when you started the car. Which one is more difficult, the full wet conditions or the changing conditions like Max got in when he was in the car?
I think it was tough for Max, just because Pruitt had been in the car for a while. He knew what to expect, and and Max was getting in there no laps and had to kind of adjust to the track from nothing. So I think it's two different scenarios. I think now it's drying up. Hopefully it'll stay this way for the rest of the race.
Yeah, SunTrust team seems to have a handle on it. So do the Taylor boys. They started up front. They're still running up there, right, Chris?
Well, Ricky's much younger brother, Jordan, also started the race today, but your brother got to start up front where there was none of that spray. You were deep in the spray back in GT, which means it was a lot tougher, wasn't it?
Yeah, spray was definitely a big issue. Visibility was really tough. I mean, it was safe for everyone, but I'm glad I made it through the first couple hours, just keeping it on the track. We're in top 2 right now, so still got 4 hours. I'm happy to see us drying out. Our Camaro super strong in the dry conditions, so still a long way to go, but at least we're in for the hunt.
The Auto House Camaro right now running second. You got the Mazda in front of you, a BMW behind you. Are you worried about any of those guys?
No, we've been so strong the whole weekend. The Camaros have been great. The Auto House guys have been doing great pit stops, so I'm not too worried. I think we've got a car definitely for the win. We just got to keep out of trouble for the next few hours and be there for the end.
Well, they're the hottest team in GT right now and lots of confidence.
And they've got factory GT driver making a visiting appearance, Tommy Milner behind the wheel, and he is really turning up the heat for the top spot on Charles Espinlaub.
Oh boy, has he been laying down some laps. 153.8 is his fast. He just ran a 154 flat, and Espinlaub's running high 56s, so he's eating into that lead by about 3 seconds a lap as he tries to get around it.
Trying to get a nose in for the left-hander if he could. The next corner also left. It's a good passing opportunity.
The Dempsey Racing Mazda leads the way, and Charles Espinlaub has done a very nice job today. Here comes Milner. He's just being an annoyance, isn't he? He's going from one side to the other. He's filling that Mazda's rear view mirror.
I think what he was doing was trying to set him up right there. He took the big radius on the corner to try to get a run down in turn 1. Not quite. Looks like the Mazda's got top end.
Got him on the inside, Dorse. Got him on the inside.
Yeah, good maneuver, too.
Down into 1. Talking with Bob Curlin about having Tom Milner here. He said it's a real delight. What a nice young man, and boy, is he smooth in the car.
Yeah, and that's really a key, and he's just a great addition to this squad. They're on a roll, and you want to bring in someone, if you're adding a third driver, who can get the job done, and Tommy Milner is showing the way right now.
Mazda has been very strong. Typically, traditionally, the Mazda has run pretty well here. Tell us more about this mark at this track, Brian.
Well, Lee, they're struggling a little bit right now with the handling of the Mazdas. Really, all the teams up and down pit road are, and especially in these conditions. The reason is it is a lightweight car. Now, normally they'd say that lightweight is good. You can get it going pretty fast. It has good top speed, and it stops extremely well. But in these wet conditions, it doesn't roll enough weight onto those tires to really get the grip. And as the grip is at a minimum right now, especially in these drying conditions where it's still not just absolutely perfect with great grip, that lack of weight rolling onto that Continental tire is a bit of a hindrance for the Mazda driver, so they've got their hands full here at Watkins Glen.
You know, being that we started this race in the rain, it scrubbed off all the rubber. Now that it is dry, it's a green track. There's no rubber down. So these lightweight cars, they're going to have to wait for a while for the rubber to build up, and then they'll get that grip level back.
Give a shout out for another GT driver. That's Brian Sellers in the 44 Magnus Porsche. He's just laid down a 154.84 versus class leaders who are in the 55s and 56s. So Brian Sellers is enjoying his time in that Magnus Porsche, running 4th at the moment behind Joey Hand.
Yeah, you look at some of the guys that have been added to the driving squads this weekend. Tommy Milner, we just spoke about. Joey Hand added to the 94, and Brian Sellers. These are real hard guns here we've got here today.
12 of the 26 cars decided to go for a 3-driver strategy, Dorse. Good or bad?
I think good, particularly since it rained at the beginning of this thing. That takes a lot out of you. The third guy is always like a buffer. You know, you can use him if you need him, but you don't need him. You don't have to use him.
It's a good safety net to have. Some people will say, well, it really means we have to divide up the drive time earlier in the weekend. You know, you don't really have enough time to get everyone through the race car, but certainly if you have any problems, it's good to have that third man at the racetrack.
Up front, Max Angelelli still controls this race, and Scott Pruitt still trying to get past Bert Frizzell. Thinks about it into turn 1, can't quite do it. And guess who's arrived on the scene? The Red Dragon is there. We're still so early in this race, and so much has happened already. Stay with us, won't you? Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is brought to you by Wall Trimmers with the power of lithium ion. Visit us at walltrimmer.com. And by Continental Tire, innovative technology, driving confidence. Before we get back to action here at the Glen, I want to remind you about NASCAR Race Day, built by the Home Depot, tomorrow at 10:30 a.m. Eastern, and that is, of course, live. Join JR and the gang. NASCAR Race Day rolls into Kansas. Kevin Harvick and Joey Logano will be on the show, and crew chief Steve Letarte discusses Dale Jr.'s last lap heartbreak in Charlotte. NASCAR Race Day built by the Home Depot. That's tomorrow. We're back here at the Glen in upstate New York, where conditions look a whole lot better than what they did at the beginning of this race. Still 3 3/4 hours remain in the 30th running of the famed 6 hour here at the Glen. And nothing has changed at the front of this field other than Max Angelelli putting an additional 6 seconds on Bert Frizzell, who is still holding off Scott Pruitt.
Fogarty looking really loose there. Brian's down there with his teammate. What's Alex got to say, Brian?
Well, Alex Gurney certainly looks a lot better than the last time when you saw him at Lime Rock when you were climbing out of that car. I think you were cooked, but very different conditions here. Talk about track conditions right now, the balance of the car. How has it changed from the beginning of the race in full wet to these drying conditions we have now?
Well, the in-between conditions were the hardest for us. I was very loose there at the end when it wasn't fully wet, and anytime I touched any of the seams in the road, the car was just really difficult to hold on to. Just getting through the S's without spinning was a tall order, and John kind of reported the same thing when he got in. He was really loose, and we burned off a set of the reins. So, but things are better now that we're dry. We definitely have a dry setup on the car, so I think we're in good shape.
Keeping their fingers crossed for the dry the rest of the day. Chris?
Well, Brian Frizzell had to start this race in the wet in the Office Depot car. Great car today, but I'm watching you kind of dance around here looking at this dry racetrack. You jealous these guys are out here in the dry?
Yeah, I got a little bit of the short end of the stick on that one. I mean, those conditions were pretty crazy. It's very hard to see when you're behind other cars. The spray's unreal. But the Office Depot car's good, and we're going to try to get a good result here today.
It looks pretty strong, but communication problems is the main reason the car's running 7th. Are you guys going to be able to get that fixed?
I don't know if we will. They're trying to jerry-rig up a way we can put in a radio and talk under yellow. But yeah, we lost our screen, so we don't have shift lights. We have radio problems, so we have a difficult situation.
Yeah, that's the tough thing about the wet guys. That water gets into everything, and right now the team trying to figure out, do they just need to change the radio, or do they need to change the radio and the harness? Because trying to get Matt Bell in pit lane means they have to go through Grand Am to get him black flagged.
Well, Cal, it's even worse when you're dealing with this changing conditions with the racetrack, because if it should sprinkle again, if they have to make a decision to get the rain tires back on, without the communication to the driver, I mean, you can't play out that play.
Yeah, it's absolutely essential, the communication in these 6 hour races especially. But here we see a great battle that continues between the 5 and the 01. Pruitt keeps looking to the brake zone, but I think that 5 car is running a bit more downforce. That certainly helps you through the corners, but it really helps you in the brake zones, Dorsey, in terms of how late you can brake and still have the car underneath you.
Yeah, definitely. So far, I mean, you've been able to squirt off the corner and get away far enough from Pruitt that he can't get it back in the brake zone, but now we've got traffic in there. We'll see what happens.
Look at Fogarty, he wants a way through to also.
Remember the history between Gainsco and Ganassi. Perhaps for every other driver other than in the 99, Scott Pruitt is the benchmark driver. They would all dearly like to beat Scott. They see him as the benchmark in Daytona prototype racing. So for Bert Frizzell to be holding the 01, the 3-time champion off, this is a huge boost. He'll be loving this.
It's a great run for him. I think Pruitt has a little bit more lap time, but Bert Frizzell is staying really calm in a high-pressure situation here.
Well, I wonder if the 99 has less downforce on it right now, because I just saw John Fogarty coming down the hill, lose front grip first. The front end just washed out, and then, of course, it wagged the tail at the exit. It looks like a complete lack of grip.
Well, at the start of this race, we obviously had the rain, Lee, and some of these teams may have added some downforce to the cars. And the balance will change a little bit. You're not always going to get an equal balance when you just throw downforce on the car when it suddenly dries out. So they maybe make some adjustments with that rear gurney. That rear wicker can be changed quickly during a normal service routine on pit lane.
Couple of hits in regards to GT. We can't say enough about Tommy Milner. He has put 12 seconds on Charles Espinlau. He is continually lapping about 3 seconds per lap faster and is flying in that 88 Autohouse car. These 3 Daytona prototypes have just whipped by the number 70 Speed Source car. Let's hear from the team principal.
Sylvan Tremblay down here out of the car, and still obviously championship caliber team, race winning team you guys have here. The last 3 rounds you guys have really struggled, lots of bad luck, and I know you had a fuel cell problem before we ever even started this event. What set you back in the race itself?
Looks like we had a damper break, so we've had like 2 or 3 really weird things happen to us. So obviously we had some good luck last year, had good results. This year, the way the rules are, it's real tough, so we got to squeeze everything out of our cars. Maybe that has something to do with it, but obviously, you know, our Castrol Edge car has been running real well. We were doing what we needed to do. We have a teammate that's right in front of us, another one behind us, so we're doing what we needed to do. Unfortunately, we've had some bad luck. So I've been on both sides of the coin. We've had good races, we've had bad races. At least we're still circulating, and we're trying to make up some points. I've been upside down on fire, so we'll take it. We're happy to be running here. A little disappointed that we don't get the results really that the team deserves. Like you said, championship caliber team, not championship results right now. So we're working hard.
Yeah, definitely working hard. You still see the smile on his face, but I can tell you the smile gets bigger when they're winning races.
They'll be smiling at the Ganassi camp. Scott Pruitt has now got by Bert Frizzell. So let's see what kind of a gap the 01 can put on the 5 now that it's got some clear track. We will see. And now that challenge lies with John Fogarty to see if he can clear the Action Express Porsche.
Curious on Sylvain Tremblay, saying we've had another shock problem today. So remember at Lime Rock, Dorsey, they had that shock canister blow on them, which we thought was due to the heavy loads at Lime Rock. So they've got something going on, I would assume.
I was kind of wondering if he was referring to the Lime Rock shock that broke. You know, I could understand it at Lime Rock with the heavy load on the uphill downhill, but this racetrack, you know, not that it's not loaded as you go through the S's, but still, like you say, to have 2 shock failures, if that's what occurred, that they have more than just a problem.
And Dorsey at Lime Rock, it was the left front shock that was the problem. Here, the right rear, and that's certainly not one that is heavily loaded, so interesting to say the least.
Look at Fogarty, look at the 99, the red Gainsco Chevrolet powered Riley. He's got the outside run into the inner loop.
Oh, he's got it. He's got it.
Great
He used the traffic there. Bert Frizzell just waited to see which way the GT car was going to go, and Fogarty dived to the inside there and had the inside for the next left-hander. But I tell you what, that Red Dragon is a handful. Fogarty had a big twitch going up through the S's, just as Alex Gurney described when the car was in damp conditions. So balance not perfect, but good battle here for Fogarty. Moves it into the 3rd spot.
Hey, let's go back a lap. Here's the replay on how the 01 of Scott Pruitt got by Bert Frizzell.
And this was inevitable. He had been hounding and hounding. He goes to the outside, gets a big run, no question about that. Gets same place, turning into the inner loop. And the question, if he was being held up, has been answered because he has taken a big lead from where he was before.
Very similar scenario to what they got into with the 9 car, the other Action Express car at VIR in the final laps of that race, where Pruitt did get beat that day. He said, I just didn't have anything for them. I think lap time-wise, he may have been a little bit quicker, but it's hard to really get past when the car is so strong in the braking zones.
And these guys, meaning the Bob Stallings Gainsco team, will be relishing these opportunities in the dry, because yesterday they struggled with a big understeering problem. They rectified that in this morning's practice. They were very fast and they were looking forward to it. Now, Pruitt's line on the inside was the conventional line. This is the hard way round.
It was. You see there, Bert, he's trying to really just, I think he's trying to gap himself on that GT car, but allowed John the inside line. And then he makes it stick in the next left-hander in the middle of the bus stop.
And of course, Bert's a clean driver and he allowed it to happen for sure. He could have made that a lot worse.
Paul Edwards is still in the top 5 overall in GT. Milner, Espenlaub, Hand, Sellers and Siegel. Yep, the defending GT Series champs are up into the top 5. We'll be back. Need to tell you about the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series Texas, Friday at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Live. It's been a very interesting championship this year, to say the least. Let's see who'll be the biggest cowboy there out in Texas. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series, Friday, 8:30 p.m. Eastern. Of course, it's live here on Speed. Here is the Spirit of Daytona Coyote. It's currently running in 5th position. You know, for the amount of times we've seen this car on pole and run up front, it's been a very frustrating season for Troy Fliss, team principal, and his drivers. However, they could be heading for a season best result, Chris Neville, if they stay right where they are.
Yeah, Lee, that first hour of this race was very tough because they couldn't see out the windshield. Now, the car is running well, but they want to take some air off the car. Too much aerodynamic downforce on the car is slowing them down. Typically, we might see them just take a gurney off the back wing, but this team, they're going to take a big swing at some changes on this car in the next pit stop. They're going to do a new nose on the car, so this nose is going to go on. No dive planes on this nose. Typically, right now, if you look at that car in the racetrack, It's going to have some dive planes out here, adding a lot of downforce, and they're also going to do a rear bumper on the car. So not just a wicker change, they're going to put a new rear bumper on. This is about a 25-second change. The spoiler right here, not as aggressive or as tall as the one on the car that's out there right now. So they're hoping to get down those straightaways a lot quicker.
That's a great idea, Chris, and certainly they want to get the car as efficient as they can. There's over 3.5 hours left in this race and a lot to play for. But one problem we saw at VIR, remember the SunTrust team, they were in prime position to jump around the 01 in a pit stop exchange. They're trying to change that rear wicker, and with the grit and grime from the wet conditions, it didn't allow them to do that. They lost a lot of valuable time. And with those clips, it might be a little bit easier, but sometimes changing those body pieces when the car's nice and clean, Dorsey, a lot different when it's run a couple of hours in the wet.
And a front and rear, and I kind of understand why they're doing that, to try to keep a balance, even though they're looking for straight line speed and less downforce. You know, changing the front by itself would have unbalanced the car, so certainly now they're going to the back, but you're right, it leaves them wide open for mistakes.
We're going to get to GT in just a moment, but isn't this interesting? You think about Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing. Wayne Taylor himself, not only a Grand Am champion, two-time World Sports Car champion. Simon Hodgson, who runs the team, formerly at Ganassi, used to be at Lotus F1. These guys are highly experienced, and Simon said to me after that VIR round, we are still learning. You know, we shouldn't have taken that risk to change that gurney flat. We should have known better. We should have known with all the mud and everything flying around. And there's a guy who's been at the height of Formula One and said, we should have known better. You still learn every year.
Exactly, and that's what's great about this game. The best drivers, the best crew chiefs, the best crew, they all learn something every weekend. You never come out of one of these Grand Am events without thinking, okay, we're going to do that a little bit better next time.
The 88 Auto House Camaro has come in for a on-schedule pit stop. That means the 94 Turner Motorsport BMW has gone to the lead, and Chris is there.
It's been a roller coaster weekend for these guys. Bill, you guys had the crash yesterday. You had to start at the back. You were behind the wheel. You got that penalty, so you had to go to the back again and work your way all the way up front. Now that BMW is up front in GT. You guys have got to feel good.
Oh, yeah. I mean, leave it to Turner and all the guys at Turner Motorsport to prepare a great car. And it took them all night long to get it back to normal. And now the car's running great. Tommy Milner in the 88 car's doing a great job, too. I mean, I teamed up with him last year. But Joey Hand is hunting him down. We're just prepping the car now for the end. We're going to take a gurney change. We're going to start to balance up the car, get it out of the rain setup, and get it ready for the end.
Now, when you got that penalty for jumping the start, you were pretty colorful on the radio. Where'd you learn language like that?
Not my mother, I'll tell you that. You know, this weekend's been trying. It's been tough for us. We went, you know, like you said, we crashed the car, went to the back, came all the way to the front, and then got sent back to the back. I mean, I couldn't even see it. I think it was Mr. Nonamaker. I didn't see him. I think he hit the brake lights, and I was just trying to avoid stuff. I didn't know. I couldn't even see the starting line. So, sorry, Mark Raffoff. You always make the right call, so we're still trying.
Well, he better look out when he gets home. His wife, Yvette, is going to wash his mouth out with soap. Brian?
Well, if the BMW's at the front of the roller coaster, I think the 07's at the back of the roller coaster train right now. Ollie Gavin, you guys had a great run early on, and it's not a speed issue that has you further back in the pack right now. What is it?
Well, it was the waypoint issue and us coming in for a pit stop while it was still wet when the 43 Sahlen's car went off. And we were in the lead. We came in, did a pretty decent pit stop, went out and was a lap down. And it just seems so strange how we can go a lap down like that. I think all of our competitors got a wait bar. We were in the pit lane. It just seems crazy that that can happen in the race where you go from first, coming in the pits first, and leaving and you're 10th or 12th. It's bizarre.
I know a lot of head scratching going on down here, but with the experience that you have and the endurance races that you've won, certainly understand there's still a long way to go. Does this Camaro have the speed if you can get it back on the lead lap?
Yeah, it certainly does. I mean, that's one of the things in the rain or in the dry. It's been fantastic. But I'm racing against two excellent drivers, you know, in the sister Camaro, in the 88 car, the Autohouse car, in Tommy Milner and Jordan Taylor, and they're going to be extremely difficult to beat, especially as we're a lap down on them now. And the Orbeland car with Joey Hands up there, so we're going to have our work cut out here to get ourselves back in contention, but we're going to fight all the way.
Yeah, they'll certainly be digging. We've talked about it time and time again. It doesn't just take speed, it takes strategy, a little luck as well in endurance racing, Lee.
Our strategical surgeon is Monsieur Poisson, Calvin Fish. So tell us, how did he go from a 20-second lead to being one lap down?
Well, when the caution came out, you've obviously got all of the DP leaders at the front of the field. They're going to pick up the DP leaders. Now, on the first time by, it only allows the DPs to pit, so it basically pushes all of the GT cars to the front of the line. Now on the second lap, that allows the GT cars to come in, but if you decide to stay out, what's going to happen, they're then going to look for the new DP leader who's behind those GT cars that have stayed out. Those GT cars get waved by the pace car. They can then rush around, and with the length of this lap, come into pit lane, do a service before the field comes by again. So it basically puts you out the best part of a lap. And, you know, it's part of the rules, it's part of the makeup. And it's something we saw here last year. Remember, the Dempsey Racing team had the lead of this race. Mike Gure and his crew that day, they got it wrong. They didn't wait for that wave by. They suddenly got mired in the park. They lost the race that day. The good news for that team was they came back to the sprint race later in August and got redemption with a win.
So they made the same call that what the 07 camp did as the 69 comes in. And this is Jeff Siegel. He's running third at the moment. So it's Joey Hand, Brian Sellers, and then Tom Milner will move back up to third. The 5 is in and Brian's standing by.
Bert Frizzell brings the 5 in, filling in on this team as the third driver with Darren Law and David Donahue. The Continental tires are on, the Sunoco fuel going in. This car running very well. The Action Express car is the only 2 Rileys in the field with the old style bodywork. But the problem for this team right now, they think it is a broken exhaust, and that's going to keep their speed, the power of this Porsche power plant down. Frizzell back on track.
Clear out, all clear, all clear.
Been a remarkably consistent season for these guys. They've finished every race in the top 10. They've finished 4 of the first 5 races in the top 5, including 2 podiums. It's been remarkably consistent.
Yeah, and I think they'd had another podium last weekend at Lime Rock, but remember they needed a splash of fuel right at the end of that race. That additional pit stop really cost them dearly in the championship chase. Otherwise, they would have been second in points coming into this round and been a lot closer to the 01 car.
So it's Angelelli over Scott Pruitt, over John Fogarty. That's unchanged. The 3 biggest teams in Grand Am competition fill the top 3 positions as we ride with Scott Pruitt. Let's enjoy this for a moment. Dramas for the 67, Steve Bertho.
Looks like maybe right rear damage on the suspension tank.
Just towed out.
You okay?
Yeah, I think it is too.
See that right rear corner, Dorsey. Had a spin. You can see probably up here, we see the time marks further back up the racetrack.
Third full course caution of the day.
This is a
there
good
you got
time.
a good look.
Yeah, you can see it there.
Right front, right rear damage, both.
A lot of these DP cars, Dorsey, we're getting close to their pit stop window, so this is good news for them.
Look at the back of the picture here, coming down the hill. Wow, he dropped his wheels. It's going to be a big hit on the side here.
That's exactly where the car got punched by Colin Brown in that number 2 Star Works Riley.
Actually, he's coming down the downhill, the old turn 5. He dropped outside wheels off into the mud, and it sent the car into a slide.
It's time to go home, bud.
Same part of the car that got hit by Colin Brown. So that's double damage in 2 days. The poor gang at TRG, it has been a weekend to forget, that's for sure. So much more to come from the Glen. The third full course caution coming to an end. We'll get back to racing in just a moment. Plenty of racing next weekend here on Speed. 25 hours of coverage of the 24 hours of Le Mans on both Speed and Speed.com. Check those times, though. You can see it there on that graphic. We'll be a little bit tired by the end of it, but we're looking forward to it. Of course, it only happens once a year, and we've got plenty of Grand Am drivers making the trip to Le Sarthe this year. Darren Lorge, Robert Bosa, Antonio Garcia, they're regulars for sure. Ollie Gavin, Lee Keane, Spencer Pumpelly for the first time. He'll be really excited about that. And Joey Hand with his factory BMW drive. So we'll be following the American guys and the Grand Am regulars with much interest. One of those guys making the trip over is standing by with our Brian Till.
That's right, Lee. You know, there's been plenty of sports car racing on Speed the last couple of weeks, and there's going to be a lot of sports car racing next weekend, Darren. Every time this year, you look forward to coming here, and I know do it this 6 hours, but the 24 coming up at Le Mans, that's got to be special as well. What is this growth? Is that for the 24?
This is my European beard. What do you think? I don't know. Joao had a beard, and I thought I'm going to give it a try. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. We're running well here, and we're heading over, obviously, to Le Mans, and I'm leaving Sunday right after the race, and I'm excited about that race, so hopefully it'll be good.
Well, you know, there's almost as much gray in your beard as there is in my head of hair here. So I'm wondering, are you going to keep that throughout the entire race? Or are you going to see if it's good luck for Joao? Or
now that you brought it up, I'm shaving it all off. It's gone. Forget it.
Well, they can use his hair color on his
I just want my wife to see it. She hasn't seen it yet, so yeah, it'll be good.
Yeah, I'm thinking she's not going to think you look like Patrick Dempsey. You might want to get the razor. Let's head on down pit road to Chris Neville.
Well, I don't think Antonio Garcia can grow a beard, but this guy's going to be part of the Corvette factory team next week. And then, Antonio, is there ever any concern about running an event like this and then having to get over to Le Mans?
I mean, it's always good to be racing anyway. So I know it's a long trip back there, but I mean, we have like 2 days to rest until we get on car on Wednesday. So really looking forward to getting to that Chevy Corvette for sure.
Talking to Ollie Gavin, he was a little bit concerned about potentially getting blisters here. Is that ever a concern?
About, sorry?
Getting blisters on his hands here and then having to get over to Le Mans.
I got all the blisters at Lime Rock. So now I'm healed. Now it's way cooler, so now I'm very, very enjoying it. Other than this fog on the first, second lap, everything went pitch white, so I couldn't see anything. So that's another thing to write on my memories.
The team just did a major bodywork change on the 90 car. Is that really going to affect the car and make it that much quicker on the straightaways?
Yeah, I mean, we knew what was coming in, all this rain, so we took on a not risky way. Just we put a lot of downforce in. So, and we knew that at one point into the race we needed to change back. So we found this yellow a good moment to do it, and I think we're going to be back on pace.
Oh, good luck. Well, we talk about endurance racing. We got to talk about Scott Pruitt. You just spent a lot of time in the 01 out there, and you drove, I think, in just about every condition that we had today. The racetrack, I mean, how difficult is it to find a balance in the car, both in the wet and the dry?
It's really tough. When we started, it was a little rain and then a lot of rain. And you change your line, you change the brake balance, you even change a little bit of aero. The Chelmex BMW, I mean, the car is running good. We got jammed up in traffic. And you just couldn't, we just couldn't make a good move without, maybe having some contact out of my family at home. So we just had to keep kind of knocking on door. We lost a lot of time to the 10. Hopefully we can turn things around.
I know the time you spent in the race car out there was brutal, but is it going to be even more difficult next weekend when you have to work with Lee and all of us for 25 hours in the broadcast from Le Mans?
Driving the race car is easy compared to working with you guys. Are you kidding me? And the 24 hours endurance for speed. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun, but I don't know. I'm going to have to bring a lot of Pruitt wine to keep everybody happy.
I'm liking the sound of that. So it should certainly be an interesting broadcast, Lee.
So much in motorsport is made of good young talent and how the young guys do this and the young guys do that. Well, what about 52-year-old Scott Pruitt? He has just driven for 2 3/4 hours and looks as fresh as he did right there.
He's a young guy.
Yeah.
Compared to me.
Good effort. All right, we're gearing up to go back to racing. We're going to squeeze in a quick break. See you in a moment. Back racing at the Glen in the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen, and it very much has been a number 10 SunTrust Dallara day. That car, Ricky Taylor and Max Angelelli, have led in excess of 80 laps. It has been a very promising day for the Lime Rock Park winners. Alex Gurney, Memo Rojas, David Donahue and Antonio Garcia. Add Oz Negri to that list. The top 6 cars are all on the lead lap. With less than 2 hours left in the 6-hour classic, Jordan Taylor, yes, same family, younger brother, 20-year-old Jordan Taylor, younger brother of Ricky, leads the way over Andrew Davis for the Brumos Porsche and Guy Cosmo, best of the Mazda Brigade for the 69 Speed Source machine. Huge shout out for the Sahlen's Mazda, Mamo Gidley and Wayne Nonamaker. Boy, have they had a good run. And there's another Mazda RX-8 there with the Dempsey Racing machine, Joe Foster driving at the moment. But Patrick Dempsey held his own against some other Pro-Am drivers. He did a nice job.
He really did, and we saw him in the middle stint of that race. Really very busy when he got in the cockpit for a lap or two before he settled down, Dorsey, trying to get into the rhythm. There's a lot going on, and it was great to be on board with him, watching him working with all of the controls, all the driver aids, getting everything plugged in, and he settled into a really nice stint.
If you watch Grand Am regularly, you'll know that we award the Capital One halfway leader. No prizes for guessing which car. It is this car. The Italian-built Dallara with some American muscle, Chevrolet power, driving this machine. The team based out of Indianapolis. And boy, they're in the zone right now. They've said all along this season that if we just got rid of the bad luck, maybe the silly errors. There was some human error at Barber Motorsports Park when wheel nut wasn't applied correctly. If we can just eradicate those silly mistakes, this car's good enough this year to be a contender. We're seeing that. The 99, they've won here before. They love this track, John Fogarty and Alex Gurney. We're seeing possibly one of their most consistent runs of the year. So they're in the zone. They're certainly in with a shout of winning. And keep an eye in the background. There is the 01.
Well, I think with the 99 car, they really found something after the warm-up at Lime Rock Park, and they came here, and it seems like the car's working well. Don't have the ultimate pace of the 10 car, but certainly in the ballpark. The 01 seems to have been stymied behind the 5 car for many laps during the course of this race. It's got good lap time, Dorsey, but in terms of the brake zones, seems to be struggling there a little bit. Some of the other cars are carrying more downforce, and they seem to have the advantage in the brake zones, which makes it tough for these guys to race against.
It was interesting qualifying, too. Scott Pruitt really tried hard to, oh, this is going to be close. Pruitt tried really hard to grab the pole, but he could not match the speed of Ricky Taylor in the 10. It was not to be.
That was a pass for 4th. Antonio Garcia in the 90, getting by David Donahue. And that number 5, Action Express Porsche, has been in the thick of it. While we were away, Bert Frizzell was behind the wheel, and he was defending lap after lap from Memo Rojas. Let's relive this move here. Watch the 90, the car second in shot.
Probably the best place to pass here at Watkins Glen, off the last corner, down in turn 1. And you see right there as he moved over to make sure that there was going to be enough room for the turn, and he wasn't going to get squeezed.
Yeah, and it's quite bumpy there on the inside. And remember, this 90 car actually trimmed out the downforce. They started this race in the wet conditions, piled on some downforce. They made a change to the rear bumper, the front nose, and the rear wicker during one of the caution laps. So a really good change there. So hard to make that move down in the brake zone against the 5 car when you got the car trimmed out. But Garcia's on a mission. He wants to get that car back to the front. Remember, this team finished here on the podium at last year's 6 Hours of the Glen.
See that puff of smoke out of the back of the 90 has been going on all weekend long. We saw it early on, thought it was, you know, something of concern. I don't think it is. I think it's nothing more than probably a catch can with some oil in it that's sloshing around and making that smoke. I don't really think that's a danger sign.
These two guys have more in common than just being Daytona prototype drivers. They shared a Rolex 24 win together a couple of years ago. Here is the Crown Royal XR White Shank Ford Riley, and Oz Negri is behind the wheel. That was close.
Chopped across the bow, made that work.
Oz is 6th at the moment, but there's quite a deficit to make up, but he's got time on his side.
Yeah, there's plenty of time left. I mean, just under 2 hours left in the race. Almost the full length of a normal race to go still.
And we pick up the next Daytona prototype in line, 7th overall, 7th in class. Henri Richard for Kevin Doran's Office Depot Dallara squad. This car not on the lead lap. The first Daytona prototype not on the lead lap. We should also make mention that Matt Bell, who is a visiting driver in this car, a guest driver in this car this weekend, who does not have many race meetings in the DP machinery, did a very impressive job.
Yeah, that young driver has really got a lot of talent. We've seen him win many races in the Continental Sports Car Challenge Series, and Matt Bell really has adapted to these Daytona prototypes on his rear visits very, very well. But Kevin Doran has so much experience here at Watkins Glen. Says he's won about 10 races here over the years.
Top 3 GT competitors are in the top 10 overall in this race. The 88. We've said it several times throughout this broadcast. It's the hottest car in GT right now. Hottest team with a 1st and a 2nd in the last 2 races. There's a 1:06 margin between Jordan Taylor and Andrew Davis in 2nd. So long as the 88 don't trip up, this is very much looking extremely positive for another podium, perhaps another win. 2nd victory in 3 races.
Jordan Taylor just turned a 52.9, which is the fastest of the race for the GT boys. So he's not bad. This is Andrew Davis in the 59 Brumo's Porsche. This is a car that is under development, that's coming toward the front slowly. This team a bit frustrated. I know that they haven't got a win yet, but they're getting better.
They've got a podium though. At the last race, there was promising signs there. It's turning around in the right direction. Lee Keen's a 2-time winner here at the 6 Hour. And then we move from 2nd to 3rd, from the 59 to the 69. Best of the Mazdas at the moment, and Guy Cosmo, who was also a visiting driver for Speed Source. Nick Longy, who would normally be in this car, he's got some commitments in Europe. Let's find out more from this team. Here's Brian.
Well, Emil Asentado and Jeff Siegel, the normal drivers, the regular drivers, I should say, in the 69 car. And right now, Guy Cosmo doing a good job out there, guys. One of the things that you talked about earlier in the weekend, Jeff, was finding a balance in the car. It just didn't seem to be there. Things seem to be coming good in the race, though.
Yeah, the track seems a lot better now than it did in practice. I'm not sure, maybe the rain helped us a little bit, the cooler track temperatures. We still don't have the speed that we need, but the balance of the car is good, so it's consistent. Right now we're in the top 3. If we can keep it there, I think we'll all be pretty happy, but there's still a lot of race left, so anything can happen.
Yeah, lots of race left. And Emil, I mean, for you guys, this is a special racetrack. I think this is where you and Jeff took your first victory together.
Well, we've been here a long time. We love Watkins Glen. We've had some really great results here. Jeff got the pole last year, if you remember, in the 2 years ago in the 6 hour. We hope to have a good finish. We've had a real fight with the balance on the car, but it's coming to us now.
Guy Cosmo doing a great job behind the wheel of the 69 right now, Chris.
Well, Brian, when you think of the 6 hours of the Glen, you think of the last name Wallace. Sports car fans are immediately going to think of Andy Wallace. Well, I don't have Andy Wallace for you, but I have his wife, Catherine Wallace. Katie, you're the engineer of the Sahlen's group right now. Mamo Gidley running 4th in GT. I talked to Mamo earlier today, and he was so excited about the cars. Do you have anything for those 3 cars in front of you?
I don't know, right now we have a little bit of understeer, which we didn't have when it started, so he's struggling a little bit. We almost ran out of fuel a minute ago and gave ourselves a heart attack, but he's doing well. He's actually getting faster and faster. The car comes to us near the end of the stint, so we're trying to stay on that lead, well, not lead lap, second lap now.
Well, we haven't seen Andy in a while. Where is he, and is he staying out of trouble?
He's in England. He's doing a lot of magazine work, driving McLarens and all sorts of fun things, but he'd rather be here, so.
Well, hopefully we'll see him soon.
She didn't say he was staying out of trouble, though.
This car, boy, it'd be terrific to see the 42 Sahlen's Mazda get a top 5 result. Mamo Gidley and Wayne Nonamaker have had 2 7ths. That's their best showing so far in 2011. With that being said, they're in the top 10 in the championship, so it's all not that bad, and they're headed for a good result here. So too is this car here, car number 10. Ricky Taylor has a 13+ second lead over Alex Gurney at the moment. Less than 1 hour, 50 minutes remaining. There's Bob Stallings, the man behind the Red Dragon. Can his boys pull off a win? It'd be their first in over a year.
George Weaver still ahead, gives an all's well signal to the official staff. And the little Effie still in there. Here they come up Old Corning Hill. An uphill struggle for the lead. Dave Weil is ahead in his number 19 MG.
And they have it. They are off and running. The Watkins Glen Grand Prix.
Sharp starting in the 6th spot today. Schrader is your leader in the blue and white car. Jen Losey is 2nd. Right behind him, Boris Said moving up into 3rd spot.
The Sahlen 6 hour of the Glen is underway. Pruitt will have the preferred line on the inside. It's so great to be back at the Glen. And we are being spoiled right now in the middle of the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. We go from one great track to another. Coming your way June 25th. It's a Saturday race, 12 p.m. Eastern. That's 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Live, we are at Road America, Elkhart Lake. That's a first for the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. We can't wait. And when you look, our statistician, the Polish Prince Rick Radajak, provides us with a plethora of information. When you look at the history of Watkins Glen and who drove here, like Graham Hill and Jimmy Clark, James Hunt, Carlos Reutemann, that's just in the F1 days. Alan Jones, who won the last F1 Grand Prix here, Cal, in 1980. I know you were a huge AJ fan.
I know that the Aussie mentioned had to get in there sooner or later.
Yeah, man.
It's just terrific to be back at the Glen. And that fact about the history of this place, they started racing in 1948. Been going for over 6 decades, is not lost on any of these modern day sports car stars.
They've all been here. I mean, every kind of racing there is and has ever been has all been here. So it's very special, this place.
Hey, it was nice to hear you mentioned in that little piece coming back from the break.
Thank you, boys.
That's pretty cool, Dorsey. I tell you what, we've had a lot of special days here at the Glen, but this one could be real special. We've got the 2 Taylor boys who took the poles in their respective classes. Their cars have got the fastest laps of this race, and both cars currently lead, so there's a long way to go, but things are looking really strong for the Taylor family today.
A little smoke out of the Red Dragon there. That's the first I've seen of that. it could have been just, it's that uphill climb. It could have been bottoming a little bit.
Now, it's not a terribly hot day here in upstate New York. In the mid-60s, we've had that thunderstorm earlier today. When we were in that last break, Brian Till told us off air that he has heard Alex Gurney's cool suit is not working again. If you weren't with us last weekend at Lime Rock, Alex was in a very bad way when he got out of the car, physically fatigued, and he said he's never experienced anything like that in his driving career. I said, "Are you okay now, mate?" And this was yesterday, and he said, "Do you know, it took me the best part of 3 days to get back to semi-normal," and he said, "I still don't feel great." This is not good news for Alex Gurney with that cool suit failing.
Even though it's cool outside in the upper 60s, like you say, these cars generate so much heat, it'd be about 140 inside.
Okay, Pruitt's coming on out. He's going to do a double stint here at the end. I think these guys will be close, but should be good to go on one more stop. Brian?
It indeed is going to be close. A little problem with the left front tire and wheel getting it off of the hub. It'll be 4 new Continentals and a load of Sunoco fuel. And Pruitt will take it to the checkered flag, but they're going to have to get right at 50 minutes, maybe a little more than 50 minutes here on this run in order to make it to the checkered flag. It's going to be fast, and they've got some ground to make up. Stop is done.
There's a wicker change made there during that stop, so they're looking for a little bit more speed. Right now, their fastest race lap is about 3 or 4 tenths off of that of the 10 car, so Timmy Keane and the boys decided to make a change, see if they can pick up a little bit of pace in the 01 here for the final sprint.
And like I said, nobody has been able to match the speed of the 10 car in the last 2 races. They were very dominant at Lime Rock, won that race handily, and they have been the same here.
This car, this team, they're renowned for running it slippery. Low downforce setup. Pruitt can handle it just beautifully. That's the way they like to run it, to get that ultimate speed. So Pruitt did almost 2 3/4 hours to start the race. He's going to do 1 hour and 3/4 to finish.
The other part of that equation is it's cooling off. It's going to go into nighttime, and the track should gain grip. So that's a very good move, what they did right there. I mean, I wouldn't be worried about getting loose. The track's going to gain traction here as we go.
As you said, Lee, Pruitt can hang on to it. Mamo struggles a bit with it, but this is a team that really looked good here today. Running up in the front, had the lead for a short while, but about an hour ago they had some kind of issue. I believe it was with the front suspension. The mechanics are working on that, and they lost a handful of laps, so this has really taken them out of the running for the win. So right now, going to grind it out, see if they can get some championship points. But with the 88 leading, who came into this event in second place in the points, we could have a change at the top at the end of this day.
And you know, some of the suspension situations that we're hearing and seeing, I think, are related to last week. Lime Rock beats the car up. They didn't have a lot of time, and this car was in a very big accident as well. So, I mean, I can understand it.
Points as they run. There's that swing you were talking about, Cal. Paul Dall'Anna, Billy Orblin would lose the championship lead and be in a 7-point deficit situation. Look at the Brumos pairing of Lee Keane and Andrew Davis. They would be in a nice spot jumping up into third. So we've still got a long way to go, more than an hour and a half. So we're not going to say that's the way it will stand when we leave here. As we go to the pits, the 5 is in.
David Donahue falling out of the car. Darren Law will get in for the first time today. Remember, 3 drivers in the car this weekend. Bert Frizzell with a good run in the 5 early on. 4 new Continental tires, the Sunoco fuel going in. Law getting strapped in, and I said it earlier, this car, one of only 2 in the field, both Action Express cars with the old style bodywork. The guy's telling me that gives them real good downforce, creates some drag issues, and remember, still have a bit of an exhaust leak here on the 5 car, that Porsche V8 in the back. They're not getting all the horsepower out of it, Lee.
Well, it was a really good pit stop. They had to wait on the fuel, and that tells you that they got the work done really well.
This is the second Dempsey Racing entry, the 41 of James Guay and Dane Cameron. One of the teams just going for the 2-driver rotation. Has not really been a typical day for these guys. They haven't got as high as what we're used to seeing them. They are in the top 10 in class, but in the bottom end of that top 10.
James Guay, of course, won here last year. Not in the 6 hour, had the lead in that one, but came back to win in August with his then teammate, Lee Keane. They just said, we just have not had the speed in the car this weekend. We're just going to go for consistency. We've had a couple of top 5 results in a row, so there's different ways of skinning a cat, and they're trying to win that championship, but right now they just got to find a little bit more pace to be effective.
Speaking of Mazdas, here is the Speed Source machine.
Car's rolling forward. That's going to cost them a little bit.
And Sylvain Tremblay, the team principal, is out. And more than likely, he is finished for the day. It looked like Jonathan Bomarito climbing aboard. with an hour and 36 to go.
It's another one of the cars that have employed a 3-driver lineup. John Edwards did a stint earlier on, did a great job. Of course, he was one of the regular drivers on the Speed Source team last year, driving the 68 machine, had that great victory at Lime Rock Park.
Wait. Go.
The popular Florida-based team is released, and away they go.
But that was not particularly a good fast pit stop. As you saw, the fueling was done way before the tires and wheels. Now the 10-car leader in.
Ricky Taylor staying behind the wheel of the 10. He was flying on his way in. They did not have a great pit stop the last time out, and Ricky Taylor really had to dig deep. And a problem on the left rear, the gun. Not enough pressure.
Issue on the left rear. We're okay, guys. We're okay.
It's the voice of Simon Hodgson.
Tell him he's okay. They still have to take a full load of Sunoco fuel, so just take your time. No mistakes. They've got it. It's under control. The car is down. Ricky Taylor.
Well, they could have made a slight adjustment there with the guy having the problem on the left rear. There was a spare guy. They should have run the left front. Cost them a couple of seconds, but the important thing was there, you notice they weren't waiting on fuel. And what happened there, they only had 23 laps on the run. But I think the other front runners pitting forced their hand, because if there'd been a yellow, then they'd have lost their margin and they would have needed a pit stop. So once some of the others starts to lead, even though it's not the final pit stop, it still forces your hand a little bit.
Let's go to Spirit of Daytona. Chris is there.
Yeah, Antonio Garcia bringing the Spirit of Daytona Coyote to pit lane. Going to do four Continental tires, a full drop of fuel. Paul Edwards going to get behind the wheel. It looks like Paul's going to try and finish out this race. This team, obviously some ups and downs today. They had those visibility issues earlier. They did make quite a few aerodynamic changes to this car, so the car very quick on the racetrack right now. It's going to be interesting if Paul Edwards is going to be up for the job today. Antonio Garcia has been so quick in this car, but we have seen Paul make some mistakes earlier this year. Paul a little bit slow getting out of the pit lane.
One of the things he does have on his side is he is incredibly fit. The driver from Colorado. So we'll see how he fares in this final hour and a half. The 49 Sahlen's car is in. This is not the highest placed of their 3 cars in the race. It's still Mamo Gidley and Wayne Nonamaker running solidly in the top 5. A really good effort from those guys. Still got a lot to come from Watkins Glen. This Sahlen 6 hour is far from over. We're here in the beautiful Finger Lakes district of upstate New York at the world-famous Watkins Glen. New race leader due to the pit stop cycle with the 10 SunTrust Dallara coming in. Alex Gurney goes to the top of the order. And we're getting into this final hour and a half. Dorsey, in a race this long, were you impressed as we look at another pit stop at that coaching by Simon Hodgson at the 10, the team manager? This far in, you still got to keep the guys pumped up. Hey, we're okay. It's all right. Just get it together. We're good.
A good ring man makes all the difference in the world to keep everybody's head on straight, keep everybody calm down, no crisis. We talk at crisis management is what we tell it, and it makes all the difference.
Chris?
Well, Andrew Davis just got out of the famous 59, and Lee Keen going to get behind the wheel here. They're going to do 4 Continental tires, a full drop of Sunoco fuel. Lee Keen already in there, lighting up the fuel, just waiting on the right rear here, and then they're going to drop it on the ground. This car running second right now in GT, so a really good run, and I've actually pulled Hurley Haywood off the pit box here as Lee Keen's getting ready to pull away. And Hurley, you've been really instrumental with this team this year, getting everybody up to speed. But I think when we were at Daytona, we expected this team to be fighting for wins right out of the gate. But you guys were a little bit slow out of the gate. Finally got a good finish last week in third. What's it been trying to turn this team around?
Well, I think I told you last week at Lime Rock that this is like a recipe. You got to get a lot of ingredients. They all got to fit together. And that's what we've been doing since the beginning of the year. Daytona was a pretty good race for us, but we had some problems there. And it didn't allow us to win. And since then, it's just been an evolution, and we're getting better and better and better. We had a good run last week. We're really having a good run this week. But the Camaros, the Chevrolets, and the Corvettes are just so strong. They can absorb the bumps. It's really a challenge to take a platform car like the Porsches and have them run competitively against a tube frame car. So it's a struggle, but we're chipping away at it.
Now, everybody on the TV crew has been having a big debate this weekend of whether you have ever won this race overall. Can you help us out?
You just asked me that. I thought I had won it overall. I think I won a Trans Am race here back in the 70s overall, but I think I got 9 wins here, but you know, who cares if they're overall or class?
Hurley kind of sounds like you, Dorsey.
I agree with him. A win's a win. I mean, if you're in a second tier car and you win, it's still a win.
And while Brumos Racing is based in Jacksonville along with the multiple dealerships, this is the spiritual home of Brumos Racing because it's where the former team leader, the late Bob Snodgrass, comes from, the Elmira, Watkins, Glen area. And the winner of the Sahlen 6 Hour of the Glen will receive the Robert F. Snodgrass Memorial Trophy, which is certainly one worth receiving. Now, the 69 Speed Source Mazda had a little issue a few moments ago. Let's show you a replay of what happened to these guys. They've been running in the top 3, top 4. What was the drama?
Take a look here. We're looking at the right front tire change. Oh, they dropped off the jacks before he had the wheel done up.
Wasn't on the pins yet, the drive pins. And he's a little tight to the wall, too. You see those guys pretty cramped in there. That cost him.
These guys had so much success over the years. Won the 6 hours and won the sprint race here. Well, he was really hustling in there, trying to maximize the in and out lap is so critical. Just a few tenths here and there. Brian waits for them.
Gurney to his marks. It's going to be 4 Continental Tire Sunoco fuel and a new cool box. We talked about that earlier, the cool suit not working. They basically, it seems like, ran out of cool refrigerant in that box, so they'll replace that. Alex Gurney should be nice and cool, and they asked him on this stop, do you want to go ahead and do a driver change? He said, no, just change the cool box. I think a little bit of pride there was hurt at Lime Rock. He wasn't about to get out of the car, and they've had a good car underneath them. It'll be interesting with an hour and a half left to go in this race. Their window for their strategy for their next stop is wide open. Fuel is done. They're waiting on the cool box. That takes a little extra time. Now he's away. It's like I was saying, Calvin, this gives them a little opportunity to make that last call or that last pit stop at a little larger pit window.
Yeah, I think they'll have about a 15, 20-minute window that they can do that within, whereas a lot of these other leaders are really tied down to probably about a 5-minute window in getting that stop done. So that may play into their hands, but meanwhile, Ricky Taylor has burned his way by, and it's going to be tight here as Gurney gets up to speed to see if Pruitt can do anything with him as he whistles down his front straightaway.
Gurney out of the pit lane down through turn 1. Now watch up ahead. There comes Scott Pruitt, and the real key is that he's on warm tires, whereas the 99 Gainesco car is going to be slipping and sliding for about a lap.
So you'd have to say advantage the 99 right now. They'll either need a shorter pit stop, less fuel going on board, and they've got position over the 01, so it's going to be really tight here. It's been a good run for the Gainesco machine here today, Lee.
Absolutely it has. Folks, this is the team that 5-time NASCAR Sprint Cup champion Jimmy Johnson is very closely associated with. He and Alex Gurney, John Fogarty, and team owner Bob Stallings are a very tight-knit operation. Just the 3 drivers at this year's Rolex 24 at Daytona. And when Jimmy got his first road course victory at Infineon Raceway last year, he was very quick in his post-race interview to thank the Gainesco Bob Stallings organization for making him a better road racer. Jimmy loves this form of racing, and we enjoy having him in the series. And he'll be watching to see how his good friends are going in the Red Dragon 99. It's one of their best weekends of the year.
I tell you what, when Jimmy Johnson shows up, it's just not a token effort. He is out there competitive, can strut it with the best of them, even these world-class road races.
And these cars are truly fun to those guys when they get out of one of these big heavy stock cars, which are not as much fun to drive. I've driven both of them here. You know, you get into a car like this, it's racy, it feels good, it makes you want to smile. You get in that big heavy stock car and it's all business.
So the rundown is Ricky Taylor, Alex Gurney, Scott Pruitt, Paul Edwards still 4th for Spirit of Daytona over Darren Law, Oz Negri, and then Brian Frizzelli in the 77 Doran Office Depot machine. Best of the GT cars remains Jordan Taylor in that Auto House Camaro. Then Mamo Gidley has the Sahlen's Mazda up to 2nd, Lee Keane 3rd, Craig Stanton 4th, and Jeff Siegel is in 5th. Let's go to the Gainesco cam.
John Fogarty had his helmet on getting ready for that last stop, and they went ahead and just replaced the cool box. I was telling the guys I think there might have been a little bit of pride on Alex's part not to get out of the car after last weekend.
Yeah, you know, we did have a failure of the cool suit last weekend, so he might be still feeling the residuals from that. But in any case, I think everything's fine with the Gainesco BobSellingCars.com 99. We looked at the cool suit, it looks fine. I think maybe the long duration corners here makes it hard for the pump to pick up the fluid sometimes. So sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not.
Balance of the car, real quick. I heard you on the scanner earlier talking about whether or not to change the nose, which would change the aerodynamics of the car. You guys elected not to do that. What has that left Alex with as far as a car to drive?
Well, early on we were definitely free, but I think since it's been dry and the track's rubbered up, the balance is kind of coming to us. So I think the car's pretty good right now.
The car's pretty good. They're hoping for a great result here.
These cool suits, that you wear a vest underneath that triple layer suit. That vest has got little capillaries in it, and you pump refrigerated coolant through there, and that cools your body down from about 106 degrees. If you were to touch your body, it's that hot. It cools you down, but when they fail, it's also a huge insulator, and it keeps that 106 degrees up against you and inside you, and you start cooking yourself.
This has been a great run today for these guys. Craig Stanton, John Potter, Brian Sellers, the guest driver here. These guys, while John Potter is based in Salt Lake City, these guys have a workshop here in New York State, so it's kind of a home race for them, for John Bedell, who runs the team for John Potter. So a solid result here would be a big shot in the arm after some frustration at VIR and at Lime Rock, which they don't particularly have a good track record at. So we'll wish the Magnus boys well. The legendary American art glass manufacturer Steuben, based here in upstate New York in Corning, is not only a local landmark. Well, this is what the Grand Am champions are vying for as well in both classes here in Grand Am.
What really inspired me was the sense of comradeship and the teamwork that goes on. You know, pull them all together into a whole body of ideas that eventually came together and became manifest as this three-dimensional sculpture.
We were approached by Grand Am and to be involved with the Rolex Grand Am series. It was a natural fit, two great American iconic brands coming together to produce a trophy, an award that speaks volumes to the history and to the excitement of the races.
Steuben glass, it is a local legend. And did you see that email that went around during last week? Allegedly, that's what the Today Show's Matt Lauer handed the Pope, was some Steuben glass art. So it has become very popular in the Grand Am Rolex series. That's what both the GT and Grand... Oh, no, speaking of GT, here is the class leading car. Jordan Taylor has a rare spin.
He didn't get any contact with the wall. Oh,
somebody hit him.
Wow.
Little help.
That's a wake-up call.
Yeah, he was lucky. He locked it up.
Yep.
Like we always say, you know, underneath the bottom. Yeah,
it looks like the right rear.
I could shovel him up in the air.
Moving, are you moving? Yes, I'm moving.
Look underneath the right rear when we see this uphill climb. You see a little damage right in front of the rear tire. Just a little
it loose.
Panel knocked
You
loose.
see it flapping a little bit in the breeze. We're assuming that's where he got punched, which would make sense. Maybe someone tried to get underneath him exiting the bus stop.
We've got a replay for you. Here it comes.
Okay, inside we go. Yeah, he's going to get rooted right here.
It's
You
a
watch.
69. Jeff Siegel up the inside.
Siegel on the curb. Actually, I'll tell you, that was Jordan that made the contact there, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I tell you, I don't know you need to be that aggressive when you're basically just putting a lap on the guy.
That's true, too. Well, lesson learned, right?
Yep. Will be one in the memory bank.
A little bit of bodywork there that's flapping around behind the right rear. And this is the onboard view. This is what it looked like if you're Jeff Siegel.
Boy, Seth and I did this with worse results. Oh, he punted him there. Yeah, that. Oh, good save by Siegel. Wow,
that was awesome.
Well, both those guys will think about that for a minute because they got off relatively unscathed.
Well, you know when you pass someone on the outside of a brake zone, he's going to be angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of a slap in the face, isn't it?
Hey, we should give a shout out to our excellent speed crew on the cameras here and the entire production staff, but particularly the camera crew because they've faced some lightning and thunderstorms today. They had to step down from their towers a little earlier. So thanks, gang, for all of the excellent pictures and zooming in on that damage on the right rear there and for hanging tough during that thunderstorm earlier today.
You didn't mention the box lunch part.
Here is the
We
01
love 'em.
Scott
We love
Pruitt.
those
He is 36 seconds behind race leader Ricky Taylor. This is 4th place Paul Edwards, the Spirit of Daytona Coyote.
This is not scheduled, I believe, because they're way outside that window. They pitted with everyone else just 9 laps ago. So something adrift again with this 90 car. It just seems in the...
Oh, full course, what timing.
This may help them out a little bit, but so often we've seen that car suddenly in the last hour of a race have some drama.
You know, and you're right, Kevin. I was about to say that earlier on before we saw that yellow. They're talking about debris in the bus stop from that.
Wires, Kyle.
From that coming together that we just saw.
Looks like gearbox oil at the flange. What are you seeing, Chris?
Well, I just ran by the team and asked them real quick, and it sounds more like it's the engine. Paul Edwards complaining that didn't sound like something sounded right in the engine, and we can see one of the representatives, one of the engineers from Earnhardt Childress Racing Engines down here. And now Troy Fliss in the engine bay too. So, you know, this team trying to figure out if it's an electrical issue, changing some wires down here, and see if they can get them back in the fight. But obviously, once again, this team running up front, lots of speed, but not being able to close the deal, guys.
They're looking for the elusive spark plug wire, you know, being loose. They aren't spark plug wires anymore. As you can see, there's coil packs that are on top of that cylinder head. And that oil leak explains that smoke we see, Calvin, you know, coming out the back that when he corners.
Yep. Remember at Barber, the car was so strong there. Could have potentially had their first win, and some kind of small engine issue also scuppered their chances that day.
Surprised nobody's come out with a pyrometer with a thermal heat sensor, and you can point it at each exhaust pipe and find out which of the cylinders is dead.
Tell you what this really helps is the guy in second, the 99 car. Remember, he's got a lot more fuel on. Well, by a lot, I'm talking about a handful of laps, but that's potentially 6 or 7 seconds on one of these pit stops. So they're looking pretty good, and Gurney ran a lap of 42.7 just a short while ago, which is only a 10th off the 10 cars best of the day. So that Red Dragon coming alive in this, looking pretty good in terms of their fuel load at the moment on board.
This doesn't look good here as they pulled the car back, pushed it back.
You know when someone's having a tough time, Dawson, you say, well, it's character building. These Spirit of Daytona boys don't want to hear character building anymore.
That's what my mother used to tell me all the time.
They have had that at almost every round this year.
Yes, that's true.
It's a season that promised so much. Still got half the season left to deliver.
That's what I tell you when you're playing golf, mate.
Don't you talk triple bogey. There are the rounds coming up, as we've already mentioned. Road America next, followed by Laguna Seca. Can't wait. Under our 4th full course caution for debris on the racetrack, and during that break, Brian Till heard radio communication. All the front runners are coming in, and that's certainly what it looks like. Ricky Taylor, Alex Gurney, Scott Pruitt. It's down to the battle of the teamwork on pit lane. Let's see. As far as the 10 and the 01 are concerned, it's 1-all. Who has beat who out of the pits? Put the 99 in the mix now. Brian?
Yeah, the races are won and lost right here on pit road, and it is certainly a race. I'm looking down at the 99, the Red Dragon. They are not going to take tires, topping off with fuel only. It's 4 Continentals on both the 10 and the 01 and a full load of Sunoco fuel. The 99 should get out first, but the 10 right now is going to leapfrog past the 01. Pruitt at the back of the order as they leave pit road here, and a wicker change on the back of the 01 as well. Wow. Pruitt had not been happy with the way that 01 was handling. They've made a change there, Chris.
Well, Brian, it was scary moments there for a second with the 99. Alex Gurney pulled out. That team just doing fuel, so he pulled out very quickly. But as he pulled out, the 60, the Mike Shank car, was pulling in. So there was a moment there where those two cars almost came together.
Yeah, you'd have to think with the 01, they made that wicker change on the previous stop. Maybe that was too much of a change for Pruitt. Maybe they were back in the other direction. But I think the key for the 99 car was they realized that the tire change was going to take longer than the amount of fuel they had to put in that car. So get any advantage on pit lane, they basically had to go in that direction. Remember, Gurney only had a handful of laps on those tires anyway.
Pretty interesting, as Chris was talking about, to see that incident there between the 99 and the 60 of Oz Negri, because Managing Director of Competition Mark Raffoff said in the driver's briefing earlier today, when we saw it in the Continental race yesterday, where there were 2 cars that either driver didn't want to yield in pit lane, said if you're on that right-hand side, you must yield, because if someone's trying to turn in, you've got to yield. And that almost, we saw that collision there between the 99 and the 60. but the net result was no harm done.
Okay, that was a heads up by the 99 group. That's a smart call. That's a game-changing situation. Now you've got Gurney in the front.
Just a little over an hour to run. Let's give you an update on the championship points as they stand right now. Remember, before Lime Rock, it was a 22-point advantage. After Lime Rock, a 21-point advantage. Now the 0-1, as they stand, would only lose one more point. It is still a very, very healthy lead.
Yeah, and I think the key is, remember, Angelelli and Taylor, they got leapfrogged by the 99. So difference between first and second is 3 points. So if they can get back in the lead, that would go down to 17 markers difference between them and the 0-1. But we just got about an hour and 9 minutes to go in this race, and there's no way these Daytona prototypes, or anyone for that matter, is going to be able to stretch the fuel unless we see more caution. So again, it could come down to that final pit stop, when you decide to take it and if you go for tires or not.
Should explain to you, there's no point in showing you the championship points if we don't highlight what it is. 35 for a win, by the way, 32 for second, 30 for third, and it goes on from there. I'm not a huge fan of that structure. I think you should be rewarded more for a win, with only 3 points between first and second. But that's the way it stands. That's the game that we play. Let's get down to Brian Till.
Memo Rojas out of the 0-1 now on that stop just before this. Scott's taking it back over, and it looked like you guys made an aero change. He did not like it. I saw another Gurney go back on that rear wing. Did he go taller again?
Yeah, I think so. It was pretty free for me already, and you know, we're just trying to make the car as best as possible. Tanker's pretty quick. You know, we're doing the best we can, and you know, I think we have a good car, but you know, it's going to be a tough race.
Great start to the season with the victories. I know you want to get back there, and you've put Lime Rock behind you, but as we look to the finish here at the Glen, you're going to have to make one more stop, I would think?
Ask Tim Keane. He's the one to know.
Tim Keane sitting up on the box, having some shrimp. He says, yeah, they're going to make one more stop.
He's not going to get any more trouble. It's not that. Yeah, but you're right, Calvin. Everybody's going to make one more stop. You know, or unless there's a lot of caution or something, there's not going to happen.
And I think to win this race, I mean, you know, the tire issue, I mean, you start stretching the tires. If you're just going to take a splash, you're then going to try and extend those tires another 10, 15 minutes. So I think we're going to be seeing tires on this final pit stop for everyone. Then it really puts it in the hands of the crews.
It's going to be one of these deals that whatever the leader does, everybody's going to do.
Charles Espinlaub will take over from Joe Foster for the final stint in the number 40 Dempsey Racing Mazda. And what this caution has also done is given the other GT teams a chance up against that 88. So how do the 59 feel? How do the 69 feel?
Good look at all the things you have to do on a pit stop. Look at all the different devices having to be hooked up. He's not near done. There's his radio that comes off top of his helmet. Got to plug that in as an identifier, tells who's in the car. Cool suit. Charles Espinlaub on his way.
Share a little sunshine. Visit Florida.com car. It's been a pretty solid run for the 40, I have to say, today.
Yeah, they've done a really impressive job, but it just shows the level of competition that they're only just inside the top 10 despite that impressive run. So I think everyone recognizes last year was the year of the Mazda. This year, with this new tire and adapting to that, talked about it earlier, the lighter weight car, Dorsey, just doesn't seem to be able to get the best out of the tires. It's not loading them enough to get the tire temperatures and really get the grip level that they're looking for. They continue to work, dig deep. There's been some performance changes early in the season after the Daytona testing, but even so, they certainly don't have the pace they had last year.
You see Charles Espinlaub right now. It's the same thing we're talking about with Patrick Dempsey earlier. When he left pit lane, he had all the safety things hooked up, but he was not anywhere near done. He's still not done. He hasn't hooked up his drink bottle yet. Right now, he's just getting his belt cinched down, get himself ready to go. There's a lot that goes on in the driver change.
It's been an amazing start to the season for the 94 Turner BMW Motorsport team. However, it's all gone a little bit sideways this weekend. Let's get an update on the 94.
Yeah, it's been an up and down day. We obviously saw the problems they had in practice. Well, they came back and they were running right up near the front today, but just about an hour and a half ago, broken sway bar on that car, so that's why they're 6 laps down. Going to take a big hit in the points here today. But Jordan Taylor, right now leading GT, he just pulled the 88 car in pit lane, and they got a real good break on this last caution. He was the first car behind the pace car when they got the wave around, so quite a big distance between he and some of the other GT cars. So he came in pit lane with quite a big gap between he and the rest of the GT guys, and it looks like Tom Milner Jr. is going to finish out this race in the Auto House Camaro. This car very fast today. Brian?
Ollie Gavin sits behind the wheel of the Banner Racing Camaro. He takes it back on track. Oh, and he stalls it on his way out. This is the team that had hoped to regain a lap with a wave by, but Chris, as you pointed out, the way the cars ended up after the wave around, there was no chance, so they had to come to pit road, see if they can use a little strategy perhaps a little bit later, but we're running out of time, guys.
Yes, it's going to be interesting. They're back on the lead lap, though, because you see the 88 sitting still, so I think the 07 will be now back on the lead lap. They maybe need another yellow to really get back in the game here. Tommy Milner now behind the wheel. He's done a stunning job getting into this car. He's had success here in the past, way back when with the BMWs, but GM factory driver now and drafted in. And they had to get special dispensation from the organizers over at Le Mans, because a lot of these GM drivers have to be in Le Mans tomorrow for scrutineering and tech. And they're not going to make it with a flight overseas.
Well, you've got Tommy Milner here. You've got Ollie Gavin here. Jan Magnussen is not here at the 6 hour because his wife is expecting a baby. We wish them the best of luck. So he's back home in Denmark. So there's 3 of your factory squad right there that can't be there for scrutineering. You may have noticed lights are off on the pace car. Ready to get back to it with just over an hour remaining.
We have a race on our hands here, boys. Now remember, Gurney, what he's got to do, he's got to really work those tires. When you don't change tires, you're going to pick up those rubber balls that are laying around the racetrack a lot more efficiently than you do when you got fresh tires on. For 10 car, the 01, they took tires. They won't pick up that rubber, whereas Gurney, you can see him there really working the wheel hard, trying to clean up those tires for the entry to turn 1.
They're ready for it. They're up for it. Fogarty and Gurney, they're ready to win in 2011. The green will fly here at Watkins Glen with the final hour coming up. What can the Red Dragon do? Or is it going to be SunTrust Day? And you can never discount the master. Scott Pruitt sitting 3rd. Darren Law, Oz Negri, 4th and 5th.
Ricky Taylor wanted to go up against Scott Pruitt here this weekend. He did it in qualifying to great effect, grabbing the pole. Right now, he has the master, the 3-time champ, right on his rear bumper.
They have already gapped the 4th place car of Darren Law.
See who has the speed now down the back straightaway. All 3 of these cars advantage of draft over the cars behind them.
When you talk about the big 3 in Grand Am, this is it. Bob Stallings, Gainsco Racing, Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing, and Chip Ganassi with Felix Sabates. That Telmex Racing BMW.
Looks like Gurney's car's got plenty of grip coming. He's got it tires up to temperature. Of course, he didn't change, so I mean, like you say, short of the pickup on the rubber, he's fine.
May look to everyone at home that the 59 may have made a mistake there, but by getting that wave around in the field, going back to green, that's effectively the game you're playing. You're getting that wave around, which is a big advantage, but you're then taking that pit stop under green, but the net result is a gain by doing so.
Alex got a little squirrely down there in the boot doors. Here comes Ricky Taylor.
Yeah, I was about to say it, very same thing. Ricky Taylor with a good run up off that corner, and you can tell he's got his head forward, he's got pressure on.
21-year-old from Florida. He's a mechanical engineering student.
They contact.
They hit.
He got him.
Yeah, he clipped him on the way by. That's how close that was. Not much damage. Right to the right of the headlight. You see it.
Damage on the left rear of the 99.
Yeah, Gurney really doesn't have the grip right now on this opening lap on those slightly older tires, and certainly Ricky Taylor caught him by surprise there. Gurney was wide, tried to defend.
Unnecessary contact.
Well, he's trying to get a... He's throwing out.
Yeah.
He wants to get a penalty on Ricky for unnecessary contact, but there was no spin, so it's not going to happen. I guarantee you.
Yeah.
It's messed up the arrow on the Red Dragon. The arrow's going to be off a little bit, but without a spin, look at this.
Gurney's a little bit wide. Ricky has great exit speed there.
Here's the moment. Pop hard to the inside. Just misjudges it a little bit.
I don't think either driver did anything wrong there. Typically, Gurney would swing a little bit wider. He recognized Taylor was right behind him, tried to hold the middle of the road. Ricky had the speed, flicked out underneath him, just got a little bit wrong in the timing and touched him briefly.
Now, if he would have spun Gurney out, yeah, there probably would have been a penalty, but a car-to-car contact that hard of racing, I don't see it coming.
That got the wall move of the race. I'm sure Alex will beg to differ. On board with Pruitt.
Pruitt sees the damage. He'll be hounding now. Smells the blood.
Remember, he took that wicker bill 2 stops ago to try and get a little bit more straightaway speed, but couldn't like the balance of the race car, so he's gone back. So it's going to be status quo as to what this car's really started the race with, I believe.
Look at Ricky Taylor just setting sail like we saw at the beginning of the race.
His dad had an interesting point to make this morning, Wayne Taylor. He said, you know, the older you get, the more you cram into your life with business, family, kids, the whole lot. He said Ricky's 21, he's a university student, he's got nothing in life other than study and racing. When he's not studying, he's on iRacing.com, racing his brother. And he said they're just doing that sim work over and over and over again. So when he gets in a car at any racetrack, it's on straight away.
I was like that except for the study part.
And I'll tell you what, this team really refocused after VIR. Wayne Taylor said, listen, boys, let's get our acts together. Let's go out and win some races. And they're doing just that, winning at Lime Rock and leading this one nicely.
Into the final hour of the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. An anxious moment there. But other than a little bit of bodywork, no major harm done. Can Taylor go all the way and take Angelelli to victory lane? If you go to speed.com, Speed Inside Deals is your one-stop shop for exclusive ticket offers to Speed viewers. You can purchase Grand Am Series tickets to Road America in June, and we'll buy you lunch. Well, maybe Dorsey will. Speed.com/deals for more details. You know, we've just had our 15th lead change in this race, which has eclipsed last year's 14 here at the Sahlen's 6 hours of the Glen. And while we're in that break, Pruitt has got by Alex Gurney for second. So it's 10:01.99. We've had a complete change in that top three. Who's running fourth? It's the number 5 Action Express machine with Darren Law behind the wheel. Let's go to Brian. He's there.
David Donahue down here watching the screen right now and watching the race. You guys, you and Darren, I think probably the most consistent team out there this year. Fourth in the championship, but I know you want that win really badly. What's Darren dealing with out there right now? We've heard that Porsche V8 a little off song all day long.
Yeah, in my first stint, after the weather cleared out, we broke a header or something, so it sounds a whole lot more awful inside the car than it does from outside. I was kind of surprised at how mild it is out here. But we've been fighting understeer all through practice yesterday and what we thought we were going to fight today. But Bert and I have both had a pretty oversteery car in the race. I think the track is rubbering in. The conditions are changing. We play with the bars quite a bit and to try to get the balance right. Who knows what Darren's got.
Is the fuel mileage affected by that header?
A huge amount. I'm talking to Ben back here, our engine guy, and because of the lambda sensors in there are trying to adjust for fuel, it's getting mistaken readings because it's broken, so it's just dumping fuel in. So we get a lot worse mileage. We have to stop a lot more often, so that last yellow probably helped us because it evened the score a bit. Hopefully everyone will have to stop once, and we only have to stop one more time too. So.
And you guys, one of the teams electing to go with 3 drivers. Bert Frizzell, you're filling in here at Action Express this weekend, but the good news is we get to see more of you. It's always good to see those young guns out there behind the wheel. We have to give you a hard time about that since your brother's younger than you are, but Ames coming back.
Yeah, Ames going to be back. We're pumped for Elkhart Lake. We'll be doing all the races with the Nationwide Series, so we got a 3-race schedule. We're great to have Gamma 88 on board, and I'm thrilled to be here with the Action guys helping Darren and David in their championship. So 2 races with Action. I've got 3 races left with AIM, and I'm pretty happy about it.
Why wouldn't he be at a great run earlier in the 5 car right now? Darren Law trying to hold on, trying to give chase, stay consistent, and stay in the championship.
You know, we hadn't thought about that fuel mileage situation. You know, that's right, with that header being broken, one of those cylinders is dumping a lot of fuel in there, thinking things have gone sour, and that definitely puts you at in a bad way. But now that everybody's got to make one more pit stop, they're on the same page.
Yeah, they might have a slightly longer pit stop than the rest of the guys, but certainly gets them back in the game. But just really portrays what a great job Bert Frizzell was doing there and holding off a bunch of the leaders there for so long with a little less horsepower, that header issue. So the Action Express boys have really got their act together this year. Both the 5 and the 9 have shown very consistent performance throughout the course of this season.
This is anything but an enjoyable drive for Darren Law. Oz Negri's giving him a good old-fashioned workover from DP to GT, and the 69 is out in front. Jeff Siegel has a 34-second lead over Tom Milner, who leads then by about 11 seconds over Lee Keane in the top 3. But we're going to see all these cars come in one more time before the checkered flag.
Yeah, I think if we see green flag running, all of the GT cars, even the ones that pitted just a handful of laps ago, are going to need a splash of fuel. For Siegel, he'll definitely need to visit pit lane, and his fuel stop will be slightly longer. So, but real roll of the dice there by the Speed Source guys, and I like it. They got out front, and they're going for their 3rd win here at the Glen in recent years.
Well, Jerry Green, who calls strategy on that 69, is very, very good at what he does. Let's get some more perspective on the 88 and 59. Here's Chris Neville.
Yeah, Lee just checked in with both those teams, and the Auto House crew saying they don't think they can make it unless we see some caution. If we do see some caution, then they think they're going to be good to go. Going over to the Brumos camp, Hurley Haywood says, think they're going to be good to go. They're gambling. They don't think they need the caution, but it's going to be really tight.
Well, they tried to roll the dice a little bit at Lime Rock last week and on fumes at the end, and it cost them the second position. Still finished on the podium, but the 59 team, like Hurley said, they've got all the ingredients, and they're now stirring the pot and coming up with the right chemistry and the right recipe.
Guys, Scott Pruitt, once he got around Alex Gurney, just set the fastest race lap so far, a 42.50. He is on the run.
4 seconds between first and second. We'll monitor that over the next 52 minutes. Oz Negri is in.
He's in the window.
Oz is in, 4 Continental tires, full load of Sunoco fuel, and it won't take long to get that fuel, and it wasn't that long ago he was in. Fuel is done, tires are done, Negri down.
Good call for Mike Shank right there.
Good call by Mike Shank, because what they're doing is they're the first of the guys that need a pit, so if you get a yellow, it could leapfrog you to the front. However, if we get a caution, will those other guys try and roll the dice and not come in at all? So, but a good call. They're 5th in line, and nothing to lose.
The caution could really hurt them, or it depends on how long and when it comes, but that's a smart call. That gets some track position.
I think that's what it's telling us, that the DPs can go 52 minutes, because that's what they got on the board, and I'm sure they're saying we can go the rest of the way.
Earlier this weekend at Watkins Glen, Oz Negri and John Pugh's respective wives had a ride in a Daytona prototype in the Continental Tire 2-seater Dallara. Well, John Pugh's wife Stephanie does quite a bit of shifter cart driving, so it wasn't such a huge shock to her. But Oz's wife, Claudia, she was like, wow, how do you keep your neck up for so long? How do you hold on? All those side G-forces, it really opened up her eyes to what the guys go through.
John Pugh watching that last stop, and John, you guys have been so consistent all year long, getting quicker and quicker, better finishes throughout. A little bit of strategy call there, and it looks like you guys are in a good position right now. How does it feel?
Feels really good. Last few races, we've had the car really good right out of the trailer. The engineers have been really good. We're trying a little something here with strategy. I don't think the downside risk is much. I don't think it's much at all, but the upside is great. So we'll see what happens.
Guys, we're just talking about Stephanie getting a ride in a Daytona prototype the other day and having some shifter cart experience. Do you worry about that now, getting a little more critique? I mean, you got enough engineers giving you a hard time. Now your wife's going to tell you about your driving.
She's very competitive. She's great on the go-kart track, and I've got 50 pounds on her, so it's and she doesn't let me get around her either, so it's a lot of fun.
So competing here in the Rolex Series, and I'm telling you, he's going to get even more instruction when he leaves the racetrack now that Stephanie's been in the car.
There's the overview for the number 60 Crown Royal XR Mike Shank Ford Riley. So it just gets better and better and better, doesn't it, with that podium where they were overjoyed, the Ohio-based team at Lime Rock Park less than a week ago. They thoroughly deserved that result. Both drivers did extremely well. John Pugh, for one of the field's Pro-Am drivers, is really in the zone at the moment, and he was within a second of some of the pro drivers the other day. He's got his confidence up nice and high.
I think that's the key word, confidence. With someone like John, he's certainly got the ability, but he needs that confidence factor, Dorsey, and certainly runs like he had last week will do that for him. And they work continuously when they're not here at the racetrack or testing. They're working in their go-karts, he suggested, with his wife. They had a lot of fun. But they also use it as a training tool to really keep the rust off and really fine-tune your skills here for when he does get back in this Daytona prototype.
Oz was telling me he's putting him through some really rigorous training as far as how to pass and what to do, and putting him in awkward situations that you get into and making him figure out how to get out of them.
Good news from the Mike Shank camp as well. I believe we'll see a second Mike Shank car as soon as Mazda Raceway Laguna Seca, which is just 2 rounds away.
Okay, Ricky Taylor, you want to go head-to-head with Scott Pruitt?
He's coming, baby.
You got it. 4.3-second lead last time by the stripe. But both these boys are running laps very similar to one another, so it's going to be a lot of pressure here for Ricky Taylor in terms of how he deals with situations just like that. The GT traffic, knowing that Pruitt is coming.
Last lap, 2 laps in a row, Pruitt's been quicker. So I'm sure they're telling Ricky, maybe they won't. Maybe they'll just not put the pressure on yet.
In GT, Jeff Siegel boasts a 31-second lead over Tom Milner. Lee Keane is a further 17 seconds back in third. Brian Sellers for the Magnus Porsche team. And then Wayne Nonamaker in that 42 Sahlen's car. That's your top 5 at the moment. Ollie Gavin has clawed that 07, clawed his way back up to 6th. Let's go to this team, the Speed Source 69 side, the defending GT champions in the Rolex Series.
Lee, you know, we talked a lot to the drivers, we talked to the team owners, but it's really the guys that sit on the box that call the strategy, and you guys were talking about strategy for the 69. Jerry, interesting call there, and the 69 running well. Tell us about that last call that you made, what it's going to do for the end.
Well, because of where we are, we pretty much have third place sewed up. So we couldn't make it to the end at that point, so actually we're going to be calling them in about a lap here. We'll be able to make it to the end. We'll probably end up P3 anyways. There was little risk with that strategy, so we stayed out.
It's these guys that sit on the box that make it all happen. The quarterbacks, they always get all the credit, but it's the linemen that do the blocking that really get the results.
Emil Asentato in the background there, co-GT champion from last year. They formed a really nice partnership, these guys. 47 minutes to go, one final round of pit stops. Not for everybody, but here we go. Milner is in.
Wow, well, I'm not sure if this is scheduled. I mean, I would have...
Okay, just look for Bill. Goes to the center.
I don't understand this. I don't understand this because with a little bit of yellow, they'd have been able to make it. They're really saying, okay, we need a splash of fuel. Let's take it now. So this is a strange call here because I think they're going to give up that position to Lee Keen, and if the Brumos guys roll the dice, it could get beat.
Remember, that margin was about 17 seconds between Milner and Lee Keen.
Gambling on no caution for the rest of the race, and you know, although it's been pretty with only 4, that's not many, but I don't see that coming at the end of this race.
We're just coming down pit lane, Lee. You said a 17-second margin. There's 26 seconds is the delta, the difference between rolling down pit lane at 45 miles an hour and staying on the racetrack, plus the splash. So if we get a caution, 59 might be in good shape, but it's a big hit.
Wouldn't that be nice to see the famous 59 win here at Watkins Glen? Can it be their day? They're getting better and better every round. Andrew Davis, Lee Keen, and this Porsche team. Remember, Brumos stepping back from Daytona prototypes to GT. Everybody's learning their way.
Swing legs are out first. You can hold on right there at the bar.
We have 16 people getting rides in the Rolex car. 8 of them are local customers of Continental Tire here in upstate New York, all the way from Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse. And we also got 8 people that were contest winners through Facebook and Twitter. It gives us a chance to showcase Continental's technology and our advancements and new dedication to racing. This is something relatively new to us, but we're very proud of it and something we look forward to continue on in the future.
That was awesome.
Those two-seater rides I was telling you about a little earlier in the show. Hey, speaking of Continental, remember that Continental Tire Dream giveaway? You can win 2 brand new Porsches. One of them is the Hurley Hayward Edition 2011 Porsche GT3. The other one is the Porsche Cayenne S Hybrid. It's a great competition because it supports Camp Boggy Creek, the official charity of Grand Am. The special code word this week is Porsche. And we encourage you to go to wintheporsches.com/free tickets.
I tell you what was the unknown there is who's actually driving that 2-seater there. And if any of you watch Top Gear, you know there's the Stick, the unknown driver. And that ride has become so popular, I just want to tell everyone who it is. The Stick in that car is Lee Diffie, so that should really cut down on the amount of people who wants to go for a ride.
I can definitely say that is not true. in the name of safety. While we're away, the race leader came in. Ricky Taylor brought the SunTrust Dallara in, but interestingly, they did not take tires on this final stop.
Yeah, their hand was forced here a little bit by the 60 and the 99, both pitting, knowing they can get to the finish. That means the leaders have to come in, otherwise the yellow would hurt them. Deciding not to take tires, that is a critical decision. What will the 01 do when they have to hit pit lane?
The last time you have to look in the results order that the Wayne Taylor SunTrust team had back-to-back victories, 2005.
That was the 69 we saw there pitting. And when they did so, remember the 88 has hit pit lane. So the 69, they needed fuel. They're taking it. Here comes the 59 car. They're now going to come down the front straightaway and assume the lead of this race. But by this pit stop, the 69 is now going to slot in between the 59 who takes the lead right there. The 69 beats the 88 out, Dorsey.
And for the 59, it needs a caution.
Continental Tire race summary. 16 lead changes over the course of the afternoon and just 4 caution periods for a total of 17 laps. The attrition rate, well, not too bad, but we would like to see less cars out of the race, that's for sure.
Really shakes up the GT field. I mean, the cards being played the way they are right now, the 59 needs 2 or 3 probably laps of caution to be able to make it to win the race. That's a good gamble. The 88 probably played the worst hand, I think, by coming in early.
Yeah, what we didn't see there was that the 88 also chose to hit pit lane and take their splash early in the going. And right now I'm questioning that decision. It can turn out okay if we don't see any more caution here, because we know the 59 need to hit pit lane, but it still means the 88 has got to get around the 69 for the win still.
What do they think at Wayne Taylor's SunTrust Racing? Let's find out.
Well, racing is full of risk, it's full of gambles, it's full of strategy, and for Wayne Taylor, you guys just laid your hand on the table. No tires for Ricky on that last stop. He should be good on fuel to the end, I would think. How big of a gamble is that?
Well, Ricky and Matt have both been able to run better lap times over a longer period of time than the tires. It looks like the 01 has a problem with their front tires. I mean, every time we've had a look at their fronts, they look like they're in trouble, and we seem to be able to manage it. So we'll see what happens.
Well, the other thing that is very noticeable this weekend is that Ricky Taylor behind the wheel at the finish of the race. And I know that that's kind of the way the strategy played out because of the driver lineup. But I would also think that that is a big feather in his cap, and it's a vote of confidence for him. What does this mean? And that is a huge decision that you guys made to put this potential victory in his hands.
It was a difficult decision to make, and you know, we would not have made this decision without Max. And given the fact that Ricky had been qualifying at every race up to here, it was just that the timing was right for him to do it. And
the timing was right. You heard what he said, and it may very well be. We'll have to find out.
He also said, you may not have been able to hear there, we'll see what happens. Dawes, Cal, I don't know about you guys, have we ever seen Ricky Taylor make a mistake in a Daytona prototype? I haven't.
We haven't seen it, and he's got, you know, everything that he's supposed to do, he does, and he does it well. I mean, his qualifying, he's been so dominant the last 2 races. I don't see him making a mistake. I just don't see it in the future.
Yeah, he's had the weight of enormous pressure on his shoulders now for the last 18 months. I mean, to get into one of the lead cars in this category is one thing. To do it for your father's team is another. He knows how important the SunTrust sponsorship is to Wayne and his family. And for that young man, it was a big vote of confidence. But as we said before, Max Angelelli has not been the easiest of teammates over the years, and I think he is the one person who will put his arm around Ricky Taylor and show him the ropes. Not that he needs a lot of help, but he's just the guiding force here, and they have great chemistry. They work well together. They're good friends.
I think I just heard Dan Gurney yelling at me from California saying, yes, I've seen him make a mistake. He just ran into the back of my son's car.
And I was about to say, he did get a wake-up call about a mistake just a few laps back when he made that contact with Alex Gurney. That was probably something that he didn't want to do. Obviously, he didn't want to do it. But, I mean, that was the part that in his mind says, now be careful. You just almost screwed up right there. And, of course, Alex says, what do you mean almost? Look at my car.
Don't understand is that Gurney has really just taken off from Oz Negri, so I'm not sure if Oz got stuck in some traffic there a couple of laps ago, but there's a big gap there when, after that round of pit stops, remember, Gurney came out just in front of Oz Negri. Negri had shown a lot of speed, so maybe something happened there a lap or 2 ago, but looked like a good podium run for Gurney, but I think the battle for the win ultimately will come down between the 10 and the 01.
35 minutes remain.
Here comes Oz. Probably did get held up with some traffic or something.
Currently running 4th at the moment. Let's look a little further down the order in GT, and Eric Curran is out there in the 31, the Marsh Racing Corvette. How about his teammate Boris Said? How are things there, Chris?
Well, Boris Said is comfortable right now because he just handed the car over to Eric Curran. And Boris, you just did 3 hours in the car, but you guys are a couple laps down, so the win's not going to come your way. What's been going on with the Wheeling Corvette today?
Well, unfortunately, you know, we got caught out on one of the yellows, and we didn't get the wave by. We pitted. It's so screwy, you never know what to do. I think it's the stupidest system in the world. Everyone should just pit and go out. You know, you don't know when to come in, when to go out. And we always seem to get it wrong, unfortunately, in the Wheeling Corvette. So we lost a lap there. This other lap is just we pitted on the green. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be a lap down. But car's really good, but we're having a rear shock problem. Like we lost gas pressure, so that's hampering us a little bit. But other than that, you know, the guys did a really good job. And 3 hours, it wasn't bad today, but it's a long time for an old man.
Well, the car's qualified on the front row 3 different times this year, so obviously it's a very fast Corvette. But when you get the strategy figured out, how's the second half of the season going to look?
I think it looks good. I mean, the car's reliable now. We just got to get our strategy better. Our pit stops were a lot better today, so we're definitely making progress.
Good stuff, Boris.
Chris, tell him I'm ready to go around with him if he's ready.
Just to reiterate what Boris is talking about with the wave round, we saw it earlier in this event with the 07. Essentially, when we go under caution, the first time by, it's only Daytona prototypes that are allowed to pit. The GTs have to wait for the second lap for the pit lane to open for them. But what they can do, if all of the Daytona prototypes have pitted, you end up with all of the GTs right behind the pace car, and if they wait, they can then get a wave by on that third lap, and if you do so, it can be a huge advantage. So you've really got to read into not just what the other GT cars are doing, but what the lead DP cars did the lap before. There's a lot to think about for these GT strategists.
We understand there's a little discussion going on in the Ganassi camp between team manager Tim Keen and driver Scott Pruitt as to where they stand and what to do in the final 33.5 minutes in relation to the guys they are racing, Ricky Taylor and Alex Gurney. Brian?
Well, they're really talking on the radio with Scott saying, what do you think if we take 4 tires on this stop, we're going to come out about 4 to 5 seconds behind. If we take no tires, we'll come out with him. And if we take 3 tires, we come out either with him or right behind him. So right now, we're trying to decide what to do on this last stop. The time is ticking away. I think the sooner they make it, the better off they're going to be.
And that is going to be a critical call because we talked about it as 26.5 seconds is the delta. That's the amount of time you lose driving down pit lane. Ricky Taylor right now is 33 seconds behind. So Pruitt needs a fair amount of fuel to go on board. So I don't really see how they're going to be that close to Ricky Taylor. I think Ricky Taylor should assume the lead whatever they decide to do on pit lane.
The way I look at it, Scott has not had the speed to run with Ricky. So if they don't take the tires and they come out in front, he's not going to be able to stay that way. If they take...
We're going to leave the tires.
Well,
We need at least this gap. So if you come up on a bunch of traffic or you see you're going to come up on a bunch of traffic, let us know because that's the lap we want to pit on.
that's a smart call, but I mean, with no tires now, if it gets down to an outright speed race, Ricky's got the horsepower, he's got the speed.
I think looking at the calculations, right now he's on his 20th lap. I was told this morning by their strategist they could go 31 laps. So say he's got 11 laps of fuel still on board. 31 minutes to go in this race. He's probably got about 20 minutes of fuel on board. That means they need to take on about 11 minutes of fuel. So that is not a long stop for these guys, and I think that's the key. The splash would be a lot shorter than the tires would take.
Remember, Memo Rojas and this man, Scott Pruitt, are going for 4 consecutive victories in the Sahlen 6 hours of the Glen. They've lost the last 2 races here. There's team manager Tim Keen, the man who steered Graham Rahal to a fabulous top 3 result at the Indianapolis 500 last weekend. And he has steered this sports car team for the last handful of years. Pruitt and Rojas are in good hands, there's no doubt about that, with engineers John Hennick, Ken Brown. We'll see if they can do it. There is the Mexican driver, Memo Rojas, a 2-time Daytona prototype champion in his own right. Can they get back to victory lane? We'll find out. If you ever want to see the pressure of a pit stop, it is about to happen.
Well, right now, Pruitt has a 34-second lead. I was told the delta coming down pit lane is 26.5. That gives them 7.5 seconds to play with. And looking at the calculation, I think they need 7 or 8 seconds of fuel. This is going to be a time stop, and it could never be more critical. They will not take tires. Brian?
No tires, you call it fuel, and it'll go in. The probe is in, the fuel is flowing. You see the broomstick waiting to tap the fueler on the back. They'll count, they'll look at the fuel that's going in, and they're not going to do it on time. They're literally watching the fuel go through the hose. It's done, the tap, the crew is underway.
Pit lane speed limit's got to be held all the way down.
I think he was stationary for too long. I think Ricky Taylor's going to get the lead. They were stationary for about 10 seconds there, 10, 11 seconds.
Ricky's on the front straightaway. Here he comes.
He's got it.
They held him a bit too long in terms, they know what they need, so they've got to get enough fuel in to get to the checker.
Taylor's got it easily here.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be close. I thought it would be about a second. It looks like it's going to be about 3 seconds.
Now the race is on. Ricky wanted to race with Pruitt. He's got it.
Be careful what you wish for.
You got that right.
Both on equal tires. Both on equal tires. Neither one of these cars took tires on that final stop.
Here's the deal, guys. They're not going off a stopwatch. It's not literally a timed fuel. They watch the fuel flow here. When it gets to the tape, they send him. So they know what they need quantity-wise. It's more accurate to do the quantity than it is to do the stopwatch in case for some reason there was a faster or a slower fuel flow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's how it connects. It's always a bit of a dodgy situation and a gamble when you're doing it on the watch. So that's the way to do it. They've got the experience. They know how to execute.
Well, the old master and the young gun. This is going to be good.
And 27 minutes around Watkins Glen. Put yourself in this man here, the 21-year-old Ricky Taylor. Put yourself in his shoes. And you got Scott Pruitt just looking at the back of your car, zeroing in on you. How often do you look in the rearview mirror, Dorse?
I've been in this position with Pruitt before. I know what this is about.
Well, we talk about young golfers dreaming of winning maybe the US Open or the Masters. For young Ricky Taylor, he dreams of winning these Rolex races, and he wants to do it against the best. And right now, he's got the best in the business right behind him.
A lot of people talk in the old days. A lot of people say one of the toughest guys ever in Trans Am was Jack Baldwin. Jack told me once there were only 2 drivers who scared him when he looked in the rearview mirror. One was you, Dorsey. The other one was Scott Pruitt.
Yeah, it's business time now. There's nothing. You know, for Ricky, what he's got to do, he's got to be perfect. Because that's what Scott's going to do. He's going to keep pressure on.
Talk about perfect. He just laid down the fastest lap of the race at 1:42.47 for Ricky Taylor. How can Scott Pruitt respond to that?
Well, he hasn't been able to respond on speed, not for the last 2 races. So we're going to find out right now because Scott's going to give it all.
And this goes all the way back to qualifying yesterday when Pruitt was determined to stay out and try and eclipse Ricky Taylor's time. He could not do it.
He didn't get within a half second of it, so that says a lot.
There you go, the overview, the quick snapshot of the first 5 rounds of this championship. It was Ganassi 1, 2, and 3. That fantastic win at the Rolex 24 at Daytona. And then the last 2 races, it's been Action Express and SunTrust Racing. Can it be back-to-back wins for SunTrust? I mentioned it just briefly before. Wayne Taylor's team have not done that, back-to-back victories, since 2005, the year that Wayne and Max Angelelli went all the way to the Grand Am Daytona Prototype Championship. Brian?
On the radio right now with Ricky Taylor, the guys Simon Hodgson and the crew talking to him every single lap. Wayne Taylor sitting on the box and watching. And this is what you do with a young driver. You're talking through these last several laps. You tell him the gap. You tell him he's doing well. You tell him where the bars are in the car, and that's exactly what Simon is doing right now. They're going to talk him through all the way to the checkered flag.
Well, remember the Indy 500 this year. I don't think anyone will forget it when you had that young rookie, J.R. Hildebrand. He had a healthy enough lead, and we don't know what the radio communication was with the team and him, but I think he needed a bit of help in being talked through those final couple of laps. He's saying clear track, so you can just hit your marks, lay your numbers down there. The last lap, Taylor goes a little bit faster still, a 42.462. That's the fastest lap of the race. Pruitt is 1/2 second slower.
It looks to me, and I don't want to jinx it, but it looks like Ricky's starting to gap Pruitt. It looks like he's got the legs out.
What a performance. 2 42.4s in a row for Ricky Taylor.
We need to switch gears. We need to talk GT because Lee Keane for Brumos Racing has 13.7 seconds over Jeff Siegel, the defending GT champion. Tom Milner is only a second further back from that Mazda racer. So it's pretty interesting stuff in GT as well. Could this be a landmark victory for the Brumos GT team?
Here's the second place battle coming at you once you pass the 60. Right behind there, the 88 is caught up.
He has a fast race car. I mean, I think Tommy Milner behind the wheel, he should have the advantage over Jeff Siegel. A lot of time to play here, so he doesn't need to be too impatient, and then he's just got to wait and hope that they don't see a caution, because the 59 continues to lead, but they know they are desperate on fuel.
They need a caution. I mean, their hands played without a couple laps of yellow. They're done.
Chris?
Well, Darcy, this team doesn't think so. They're going to roll the dice. I just talked to Hurley Haywood, and he said, you know what? It's going to be tight. It's going to be really tight. They've told Lee Keane, hey, you need a short shift, and I'm listening to him as he's rolling into turn 1. He's coming out of the throttle well before he gets into the brakes, so he's doing everything he can to save fuel in that Porsche. He's running the lean map in there, and the team, they are going to stay on the racetrack whether we have a caution or not. They're not going to give up that lead. So they've got 20 minutes to try and save fuel and burn up that 13-second lead. But
Calvin?
this team is not coming back to pit lane.
That's exactly what you and I said. They played their hand. Now they got to go to fuel conservation mode and or hope for that yellow.
The problem is he only has a 14-second lead to play with, and I think to save the sort of mileage he'd be looking for, he's probably going to be losing maybe a couple of seconds a lap to really, you know, get to the checkered flag without hitting pit lane, and I don't think that's a big enough lead that he has before Siegel and Milner will be all over him. 14 seconds is the gap right now.
To this man here. And there is Siegel. He got a little bit of an extra buffer over Tommy Milner. Milner got hung up with one of the DP cars half a lap ago, so that gave Jeff Siegel a little breathing room. Behind these boys, Brian Sellers and Ollie Gavin. Then Wayne Nonamaker is in the top 6 in the Sahlen's Mazda. But it's all on in the top 3, particularly for second, and it's a nail-biting affair for the Brumos camp.
This is going to be good. Not only did he get held up, but it looks like Ricky Taylor lost 2 seconds that lap too. So in both classes, we're coming together.
A lot of people say endurance sports car racing, it's too long. How do you stay with the story? Well, you stay with the story when you get finishes like this. In GT, is the 59 going to have enough fuel? In Daytona prototypes, can the 21-year-old sensation Ricky Taylor hold off the master? He's got 3.6 seconds over Pruitt at the front of this field, and he's got to hang in there for another 21 minutes.
And it was 5.5 a lap ago, so like I said, this could be traffic too, but things are getting tight.
I'll tell you what, if Lee Keane is saving fuel, he's performing a miracle right now because he's running the same pace as the guys who are chasing him. So that is remarkable if he is able to save the amount of fuel he needs here and still run 154s like he's doing, which is only about a second off the fastest lap of this race.
Look at these lap times right now. Ricky Taylor, 42.90.
Nice one.
44.3, so he answers Pruitt. It must have been traffic that brought them together.
Alex Gurney maintains 3rd. Oz Negri is 4th. Darren Law 5th. And Brian Frizzell is in 6th. One man who's no stranger to victory lane is Andrew Davis, but he hasn't been there in a while, Chris.
Yeah, and he's hoping his teammate would save some fuel out there. You and your crew back here are doing everything you can to get him to save fuel, but he's whipping off laps that are as quick as the guys behind him or quicker.
Yeah, he is putting some quick laps. The car gets faster throughout the stint with a lighter fuel load, so it's easier to run the faster times, but I'm not sure he can totally hear how dire it is right now on fuel. But those quick laps don't save much fuel. So we're really, really close right now. We're still trying to decide what to do.
Well, I think the decision has been made. They're staying out.
Yeah, it's been made all right. There's no doubt about it. Without a yellow, I mean, they played their hand.
Wouldn't it be a great way to go to victory lane? Less than 20 minutes to go. We switch gears. We go back up to the top to Daytona prototypes and this Chevy-powered Dallara. You know, with everything that the Italian car manufacturer has on its plate at the moment with the 2012 Indy car, those folks over there just outside of Parma, Italy, take a big interest in the Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series. And little mementos from Max Angelelli and the Taylor family. Trophies from the Grand Am Series are on show, on display in the lobby at the Dallara factory.
Ricky Taylor opens it up to a 5.187. He picks back 2 seconds.
We're hearing that the Brumos car has about 5.5 gallons left in the tank. By my calculations, if we stay green, that will not be enough. Remember, these fuel cells have been reduced down from 22 gallons to 18.5 a couple of races ago. And with the amount of mileage they've been getting, I think they're going to be about 5 minutes short still.
How's the 01 looking, Brian?
Well, he looks fast, but he's not fast enough. Listening to Timmy Keane and Scott Pruitt talk on the radio, Pruitt said, "You're asking a lot of me, man. I don't think it's going to happen." And Timmy Keane said, "Just bring it home. We need the points. Bring us a good second-place finish. It's a long way back to 3rd. Run a pace to bring it home."
And that is a directive right from the top from Chip Ganassi himself. He tells his staff and drivers, we're here to win championships. If we win races, that's nice, but we're here to win championships. If you can't win the race, finish second.
If you can't finish second, finish 3rd. Take it right down the line, but execute, maximize your performance for that particular day.
Look at this. Tom Milner in that red and black Auto House Camaro, just hassling Jeff Siegel, the reigning GT champion, like you wouldn't believe. How about Wayne Taylor? Can his son get there? We'll find out. For those of you just joining us, let's bring you up to speed. We were talking about that fabulous battle for second in GT. It happened. Tom Milner on the inside of Jeff Siegel to take the Auto House Camaro up to the front.
Beautiful move there. Really used Ricky Taylor there as a pick. Saw the leader going through, and then big drama here. We talked about a yellow potentially. Paul Dallalana spinning the 94 Turner machine, Dorsey, and now there's all to play for these guys.
Okay, Wally Leatherwood, but watch his expression. It's not over yet. He says, hold on. Wayne Taylor lost the big lead to his son. Oh, my God.
He's got Ricky Taylor back under pressure at the front of this field. He also realizes the 88. Maybe victory is being taken out of their hands too, with Jordan Taylor, his other son, obviously one of the co-drivers in that machine. Can the 59 make it? This is what we call a short yellow in the final 20 minutes of the race.
This is intimidation right here.
Two-lap yellow here, so very quick yellow. There'll be some fuel saved. Will it be enough?
What's going on at SunTrust, Brian?
Oh, it's SunTrust and Ganassi. I'm listening to the radios, and they are heated up down here. I've got the crew on Ricky Taylor's car saying it's going to be a fight, Ricky. It's going to be a fight, but you just need to control the pace just as you have. Ricky came back and said copy. And I heard Tim Keene say on the radio, look, Scott, it looks like they're letting us be a little more aggressive here. You've got one shot at it. So this restart should be exciting. Chris?
Well, even with this caution coming out, the Brumos camp obviously very excited to see the caution because they weren't going to make it. They were going to have to bring Lee Keene to pit lane, but they've told him, hey, coast if you can down the hills, keep it in 6th gear, but he hasn't caught up with the pack. Grand Am just told him, you got to catch up with the pack, Lee. But he just said over the radio, guys, the fuel light just came on.
Oh, no. He's been shutting the engine off, but he's left him back away from the thing. So now he's trying to catch back up, and that's what the orange car is doing. He's mad about that.
Yeah, but I'd be catching up a lot slower.
Yeah.
I'd be trying to save fuel.
Usually when the light comes on, you got one lap around a 3.5-mile track like this. So.
Well, you mentioned that there's going to be a fight between SunTrust and Ganassi. I guess that's the theme of the day, because coming up a little later, Speed Center will have the breaking story. Truck race at Kansas was more than just a truck race. Now, while running tight on track during the race, Kyle Busch and RCR driver Joey Coulter, well, they were running tight, but after the race, allegedly Kyle Busch gave a bit of a door slam to Joey. Richard Childress himself took exception to that, and there was an alleged altercation in the garage after the race involving Kyle Busch and Richard Childress. Speed Center will have the update. Look at the faces on veterans like Donnie Leatherwood and the Brumos gang. They know what this heartbreak is like. They experienced it in Daytona prototype competition at Montreal in 2008 when Darren Law ran out of fuel coming to the line. Are they going to live through that again in GT competition with Lee Keene and Andrew Davis?
This is going to be tight. I think we're probably going to have a 2-lap shootout here at the end by the time they complete, because these caution laps take about 3.5 minutes or so. So they're probably about 4 minutes on the board when we get the green flag. Chris?
Calvin, you're the strategist here, but Lee Keene got in front of the DP leader, so he's actually at the back of the line, so he's got 9/10 of a lead on 2nd and 3rd place. Do you think they should be coming to pit lane, putting a little fuel in that car?
Absolutely, yes, great point there, Chris. We saw him battling around here, and the other GT cars are at the front of this line, so do you roll the dice? I mean, do you wait and see if it's going to like suddenly cough, and you can't afford to run out on the racetrack, otherwise your day is over in terms of making a call to bring him a pit lane. But he's got a big enough lead here. These GT cars, we're looking at them right there. There you see the 3rd car in line is Tommy Milner. 3rd car in line there, right behind the 01 car is Tom Milner. And at the back of this pack is the Brumos machine. So I'd be bringing them into pit lane and throw some fuel at it. Great point, Chris. We didn't realize that they got separated.
They can't make up 9/10 of a lap in 2 laps.
Well, guys, I think they were watching the show because they're going to come to pit lane.
Yeah, there's no choice here.
Yeah, there was a lot of talk up on the pit box whether they should come or whether they shouldn't, and they just decided they're going to come in and put a little bit of fuel in that car. Last thing they want to do is run out of fuel on the racetrack.
Ideally, they should have.
We're going to pit this time.
Ideally, they should have come.
The GT leaders are caught behind the DP leaders, so you're at the end of the pack.
Ideally, they should have come last time by, because then they'd have been out and sitting in the same position. So the rest of the pack should go green. They're going to be sitting on pit lane, but they've got a complete lap to work with.
Yeah, and there's no way they got 2 laps of the race to go. Nobody's going to make up 2 laps.
Remember, we talked about that splash that the 88 car took early in the run there, Dorsey.
Yep, and that gave
coming
it up.
back to bite them right now.
It sure is. Now, here's the real question. He's got to get back to pit lane to get that fuel.
All right, guys, a little more drama down here in Daytona prototype land. We saw the lineup behind the pace car. It was the 10 and then the 01. The problem is Scott Pruitt went past the 2 lead GT cars when the full course caution came out. He cannot do that. The field on these short yellows is frozen. He just had to allow the 88 and the 69 back by. So he's got 2 GT cars on this restart to clear before they get to turn 1.
Well, only one, because the 6. No, you're right.
He's got 3 of them there. The 70s there in the mix as well.
Oh, man.
Whew. Well, that could be the breathing room. That
Yeah.
really helps Ricky, because it'll take the pressure off down into 2-1. That's really the critical area. You're going to have someone behind you potentially getting a jump. Then it's really hard with these tire temps and pressures that aren't exactly in their optimum range to hit your braking point, get the car turned down at that very tricky turn 1 downhill corner. So this is a big sigh of relief for Wayne Taylor and for his young son.
There he is there. There's the man, Wayne Taylor. Remember right at the beginning of the show when he said his wife, Shelley, said, could we just freeze this moment in time? They were just talking about their 2 boys being on the pole position. They could possibly have both boys win. It doesn't look like it's going to happen in GT, but it may happen overall for Ricky. Here we go, the run to the end, the final 4 minutes.
And remember the rules. Pruitt can't even initiate a pass on these GT cars until he hits the stripe. That's what he did perfectly. He'll get through the 88 here right now, but meanwhile 59 is on pit lane for that splash of fuel.
Got a little sideways coming into his pit box, Lee Keen.
And there goes Ricky Taylor. Pruitt's got not much he can do about that.
They can afford to fill him up almost.
Yeah, they could.
Stretching his legs, the run to the end.
What about redemption for Lee Keen? He had the lead here last year, and the team made a call where they didn't wait for that wave by, and the wave by came back to really almost hand them the victory here today.
Going to be a 3-time GT winner here at the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen in 3.5 minutes time.
They got to talk Ricky through this. There's no way Scott can make up that much of a deficit in just 1 lap or 2 laps. Just calm him down, make him hit his marks.
Remember, the good news is he shouldn't really encounter any traffic, because everyone's just gone back to green. It should be clear sailing in terms of the racetrack ahead of him.
It'll be the first time, if he hangs on, for back-to-back victories for a Dallara in Daytona prototype competition. Lock-up, big lock-up from Ricky Taylor.
Ricky, come on.
Easy, Ricky. There's no pressure. No pressure behind.
That's the voice of team manager Simon Hodgson.
It's going to be this lap and one more. 59 now back on track and still holds the lead by about half a lap.
Early Haywood, Donnie Leatherwood.
Now they just got to get it to the finish line. They know it.
Wow, they caught a little bit of a break there. Just the positioning of the DP cars around them, and the DP cars not coming to pit lane meant they were trapped. Had nowhere to go.
Few more laps.
Few more. I don't think that'll go there. Maybe.
Let's look a little further back. How's the situation for 3rd in Daytona prototype? Gurney still holds on to it, but only just. Oz Negri is right with him, and Darren Law is right there in the line as well, fighting over that final step on the podium.
There's Gurney, and here comes the rest.
Well, this is a good shot in the arm for the 99. I'm pleased to see this after what happened at Lime Rock with Alex Gurney. They've had some tough times this year. Another podium will boost them.
The 5 guys got some damage there. Clipped something or someone and peeled that fender back.
Darren Law will have really bad aerodynamics, not very good straightaway speed now because of that.
Another good run though, another top 5 finish. Keeps them right in the mix points-wise.
There's the bit missing.
1.5 minutes remain in the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen. Well, you have to go all the way back to 2009 for this car, this team, to lose 3 in a row. Coming to the white flag this lap. Yeah, Wayne, come on, you can smile. He's almost there.
He's not going to smile until this is over. And it's not over.
And again, I think the good news is he shouldn't come up on any traffic to make his task that much more difficult. He doesn't have to read anything. Just hit your marks. No pressure. Don't force the brake zones too hard. Just carry your speed through the corners. Be careful in the brake zones. Just bring it home. Should be white flag this time.
Yeah. There it is.
White flag, all clear track, all clear track. Just remember the debris between 6 and 7.
Good advice there.
I'll tell you what, Ricky Taylor is so respected by all of that SunTrust crew. They really believe in this boy, and when you got that confidence going backwards and forwards, that really makes the performance that much stronger by the team and the crew and everyone working together.
And they say oh, there's Donnie Leatherwood from Brumos. This is big. They're looking at their first GT victory in a long, long time. That's the heritage of Brumos, is GT racing. But they say if you can't accomplish something in your own life, you'd love your kids to do it. Wayne Taylor, in his illustrious sports car career, has never won the Sahlen 6 Hours of the Glen.
Good point.
Well, his 21-year-old kid is just about to do it.
Max the Axe is going to get his first one as well.
There's the GT side of the story. White flag for Lee Keane and Andrew Davis. And Donnie saying, come on, guys, let's band together as a group here. Hurley Haywood won here back in 1969, was his first victory at Watkins Glen. Hurley never did the 6 hour either. He never won it, I should say. He did many of them, but never went to victory lane. So very special stories in both Daytona Prototype and GT.
You'd have to think that Bob Snodgrass is looking down and smiling right now on his team. What a job they've done here today. Still got a half a lap to bring it home.
Yeah, Ricky's in collect mode now. That's perfect. He's got it back down.
Revolving door of co-drivers for Max Angelelli over a number of years. There's stability at this team. It's the second year in a row for Max the Axe and young Ricky Taylor. And guess what? Stability in victory lane as well, because they come all the way to the checkered flag. Back-to-back victories for Wayne Taylor's SunTrust team, and Wayne's 21-year-old boy is a Sahlen 6 hour winner. The first for Max the Axe as well.
That is an emotional win. That is a long 6 hours when you've had the dominant car and all you can do is lose the thing. They executed perfectly.
And Ricky gets to bring it home. That is awesome. Donnie Leatherwood.
Lee Keane is steering this famous 59 Brumos Porsche all the way to victory lane. Bob Snodgrass is looking down on this right now. You betcha. In the spiritual home of Brumos Porsche, this one is going to be very, very special.
2 corners, you'll be home.
And that's what the guys are saying. This one's for you, Bob. It may not have been the biggest field to take the flag at the Sahlen 6 hour, but this one has been a memorable one. The first victory in 2011 for Brumos back in GT racing. A podium at Lime Rock, victory lane here at the Glen just a week later. Andrew Davis and Lee Keane victorious at the Glen.
They better calm down before somebody gets hurt.
There's the doc. He's in on it. Hurley Haywood, Dan Davis, the entire Brumos organization. They deserve that one.
If you're writing a book, you couldn't have a better script. That was a great race. What a race going down the wire. We talked about caution playing a factor. They got it perfectly.
That one was for the late Bob Snodgrass. We will hear from our winners when we come back. It's a day of high emotion here at the Glen. Speed's coverage of the Rolex Sports Car Series is presented on Speed by Rolex, a crown for every achievement. Brought to you in part by the Capital One Venture Card. What's in your wallet? And by Continental Tire, innovative technology, driving confidence. What a day at the Glen. What stories we have to relive over and over. Let's go to victory lane.
There's the cold water. It's like a football game down here. I mean, there's emotion in Daytona Prototype and GT. Ricky Taylor, for you. I know qualifying on the pole against Scott Pruitt and taking that pole away from him was special, but to battle him at the end, a guy that you've watched for years, how special was this victory?
It's, I don't even have words. I mean, the car was so good. Our SunTrust team is the best. We beat them today. I mean, head to head. Max in the car was unstoppable, really. And I mean, I was singing on the radio on my end lap. The driving part was the easy part. This team is awesome.
And get in here, Max. What are you doing standing over there? I mean, for you, this is like a family victory as well. I mean, as long as you've been involved with Wayne Taylor and SunTrust Racing, to watch Ricky Taylor finish this race and take the victory, and as he said, we beat them today. What's it mean to you?
It means a lot. It means a lot for me. I mean, I'm speechless. I really, it's such for Wayne and Shelley, you know, also Jordan, don't forget. I feel proud and thanks Wayne and Shelley and Rick and Jordan to allow me to be part of the family.
All right, Wayne, A little wet T-shirt contest here for Wayne Taylor. I mean, normally your hair's not that messed up, but I mean, for you, we give you a hard time, and it's always great to have you around, and we play back and forth, but there was no playing here in the last 15 minutes of this race. I saw the raw emotion. I even said to the guys in the booth a couple of times, how would you like to be Wayne Taylor right now? Your heart's still beating.
Yeah, it's just unbelievable because it's so what he wanted to do. Ricky so badly just wanted to finish this race. He wanted to win it. He wanted to beat Pruitt. And, Simon and Brian and everybody in this team, the amount of focus that they've put in, I mean, they made it easy for Ricky. And, of course, Max's middle stint was just sensational as usual. And, thanks to SunTrust and Toshiba and Chevrolet, for sticking with this group. We started out difficult this year, and we always knew we had a fast car, but we just couldn't put it together. So I'm so relieved and so happy. I cannot tell you.
Congratulations. You heard him say they wanted this victory. Well, this one, they beat them. They beat them on the racetrack. It was a great deal. Chris, GT, what have you got?
Oh, this famous 59, this paint scheme, the red, the white, the blue, has done so many laps around this racetrack. When you think of Watkins, Glen, and sports car racing, you think of Brumos. Lee, what a great win for this team. Late in this race, I heard you on the radio. The fuel light is on, guys.
Yeah, the fuel light is on. The fuel light is on, screaming it. Wow, that was a lot of fun. And I can't believe it. Brumos does it again. Such an awesome, awesome team. A great group of people to be with. Andrew did an awesome job. This is just, I love this place,
Andrew, before that caution came out and you heard the fuel light is on, did you just die inside?
Well, being out there earlier, I knew when the fuel light came on and what would make it to the end. And I knew that was not going to make it. And then we saw the yellow, we thought, okay, good, but then it still wasn't enough. I can't believe it. The last 30 minutes were so nerve-wracking. And to bring Brumos back at the top of the podium is just a phenomenal feeling.
And Lee, we're under caution, and the team tells you got to come to pit lane. Were you thinking, guys, are you making a bad call or what?
Well, they didn't even tell me I was in first yet, so I had no idea. And then he said, you're out in front of everybody, and I was going to radio, what do you mean everybody? So, yeah, I just can't believe it's awesome.
Well, this is obviously a very emotional win for this team. The entire team over here, but I can't find Hurley Haywood anywhere.
He'll be celebrating. Don't worry about that. What a meaningful win. You have to go back a long time for Brumos in GT competition. 09, the season finale, was Brumos' last win, but that was in Daytona prototype competition. Let's start with GT points. How close do you like it?
Oh, this is awesome. What a win for the Brumos boys in many ways, but Jordan Taylor, Bill Lesser, they'll be frustrated along with Tommy Milne. They didn't get the win here today with that strategy call, but nonetheless, the championship lead at the end of the day. Dalalan and Oberlin, a tough day for them, but only 4 points back.
In Daytona prototype, well, it'll still be a very healthy lead. They've lost another 2 points, they being the Ganassi duo of Rojas and Pruitt, but it's pretty interesting there on backdoors.
I said before, they've lost the momentum, and look, it's just eating away at them. That's 3 races in a row.
So we will see so much of this season still to come. We're only at the halfway mark. It's the SunTrust boys who are celebrating. What a day.
It really was, and I tell you what, they have speed right now. They've got the momentum. They've won 2 in a row. And think about it, every time they win or can beat the Ganassi guys, it's 3 points at a time. Guess what? They're 19 points behind and 6 races left. A lot to play for.
Some things are just meant to be, and that was shown to us today.
Great result for these guys. 3 of the 4 winning drivers, it was their first Sahlen 6-hour victory. Well done to all of those going into victory lane. We're excited about Road America coming your way June 25 at 12 noon Eastern. We look forward to it. That was a very memorable Sahlen's 6 hours of the Glen. And we've got so much more Grand Am Rolex Sports Car Series racing coming up on Speed. Great day of racing. You'll see ARCA a little later tonight at 11 p.m. Eastern live due to a rain delay, and Speed Center coming up. Stay tuned to Speed for all your motorsports news. What a day of sports cars on Speed. Hope you enjoyed it.